Hello, everybody. And today, for this live stream, I'm doing a Star Wars ranking with the honor of May the 4th. Decided to do this on a Thursday because my friend Eli Little
Yes.
was busy with some other things. But we
Yeah.
are here today to discuss the Star Wars films.
And let's keep in mind that, technically the month of May is the month of Star Wars. So,
Yes,
yep. So, I
the
mean, it's still
25th is when the.
of course it's still acceptable, to be doing this. Still be
Yes,
doing this.
25th is when New Hope came out, and probably a bunch of other Star
Uh
Wars movies.
Something to do with May 5th. I forget what it was, but
Revenge of the
also
Fifth.
yes. Well, Revenge of the Sith anniversary is a little later, but this month. But also the fact that one of the fathers of, well, literally the father of Star Wars, George Lucas, his birthday is in the month of May.
Yes, indeed.
Yep.
So, are we? Do you want to just review the movies, or the movies and shows?
Well, well, I mean, we talked about this where we were going to rank the Star Wars films.
All right. If anyone wants to join, you're more than welcome to. But we don't have any views so far, but that's okay. We're here to discuss and have a good time, right?
Of course.
Uh, well, I'll first say this. What does Star Wars mean to you before we get started?
Golly, because for me, Star Wars just means a whole lot. The mythology, and of course, you know, great storytelling, and you know these characters that we come to love so much, and from live action, and even especially everybody loves like the characters from the animated realm of Star Wars, and all the stuff that you wonder like what's going to happen and how are they going to do this, like, and because with their storytelling and the fact that Star Wars always keeps things top secret before they're released, and just and the fact that we're always going to have you know great storytelling in Star Wars, and especially with those that come in and what they bring to the Star Wars franchise slash universe, and from the movies and the shows, and which all began with, as mentioned, George Lucas, something that he had created, and who'd have thought for George where this would go, and even when say the original trilogy first happened, and after the first Star Wars film, like, keep in mind, because nobody cared about the first Star Wars film. They didn't know what to make of it, and they didn't care if, like, say, like, this, like, what was gonna go on in the film. But by the time it came out, everybody loved it, and when it came to, say, Empire, things got serious and top secret. That was the beginning, starting with Empire. And then when it came to, like, say, Return of the Jedi, and then after Return of the Jedi was over, we wouldn't see another Star Wars movie in almost a decade. And up to 1999 when Phantom Menace happened, thus the start of the prequel trilogy. And from there on, because what would come next in Star Wars, George Lucas expanding Star Wars more. I mean, with Lucasfilm Animation, but also the fact that we had comics, we had video games, but I could go on talking about this, but just overall, Star Wars, I think it just about means a lot to me as to anyone else. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, I think Star Wars blew up when once the originals came out,
of course.
and it once they did all the expanded stuff, and then the prequels came out. People were mixed, but now they love the prequels, and now we got the newer stuff, and there's just so much to Star Wars that I love, and I can go on all day about it myself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just probably my favorite is Luke Skywalker for my favorite Star Wars character.
I mean, for me, I have so many. Like
It's hard
the
to
one I could,
choose.
Yeah, I mean, the one that I can think of most notably would have to, well, I mean, just why not? Because would probably have to be Ahsoka.
Mm, a good choice.
Yep,
So, are you ready for this ranking?
absolutely.
All right. So, are we just doing the 9 movies, or and the spin-offs, or just the
Well,
yeah,
we could do all the Star Wars films.
even the Ewok movies?
I mean, I guess so.
How about this? We will just do 9 movies, the 2 spin-offs, and the Clone Wars movie. Would that be okay?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Okay. So, who do you want to go first, or me?
Yeah, why don't you go first, by all means?
I think for me, the do you want to start at like least favorite to favorite?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Oh, we got 2 views, so that's good. So, for me, it's probably gonna be Attack of the Clones. I mean, I like the movie a lot, but like, cause I rewatched it. Well, I think probably the best scenes for me in Attack of the Clones would have to be probably the Geonosis arena. I love where all the Jedi come together and like they take down all those droids. And like I do like the Count Dooku lightsaber fight. I even love the score of that movie. I don't know why it's my least favorite. It's probably because I always thought it was slow for me because of the romance. But I don't know. When I was rewatching the prequels, it was for my Star Wars marathon. I like to do every year. Just I don't know, just changed my mind a little. But overall, I couldn't say I really hate a Star Wars movie. It just feels too harsh because hate is a strong word. If you but like, I know we discussed that before. Oh, someone commented. So yeah, I don't know. Do you think that was enough said for Attack of the Clones for me, or
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to drag and talk so much about these films for one thing.
I also do like the Jango Fett Obi-Wan fight. The world of Kamino always looked super cool, and it would later be used in like the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch,
Hmm.
and like yeah. So I think I said a little bit enough about Attack of the Clones. I mean, I don't know. What's your first pick?
Of the least favorites.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, who drank my beer said, "Hey, just want you guys to know that you're both complete weirdos." Well,
just a troll. Should we? Should
I
I
don't know
just?
if if it's in a good way or something. I don't
I
know.
don't know. Let's see what he comments.
Clarify what you
he's
mean
just a
by that. Who drank my
he's
beer?
just trolling probably.
Okay, but
Okay,
okay.
you
So
go.
my
You go, Eli.
okay. So my least favorite. Yeah, because I mean, look, I've made it very clear. I don't know how many times about these, but just it just seems natural for them to be right there in the least favorites. Okay, so I'm gonna go for my first pick is The Last Jedi.
Why is that?
Well, okay, as I just said, no hard feelings on the sequel trilogy because again, not to say I don't like them. The sequel trilogy is just not one of my top favorite Star Wars trilogies.
Yeah.
But yeah, um, Last Jedi, I don't know, because not to say I hate it, it's probably it's just one of those Star Wars movies that I don't need to be watching all the time.
Mm.
Um, I think that where the story of Last Jedi, where it was going, was not that bad. And say what you will about Ryan Johnson. I mean, I'm sure he tried his best and for what he brought, and even when with some people saying that what he brought to the Last Jedi caused some problems when it came to the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Maybe, but yeah, I mean, who? Because if it was established like what the original idea was for Snoke, but I think overall for Rise of Skywalker, it seemed necessary that Palpatine was the one to come back and such. Because yeah, but on Last Jedi, um, yeah, I mean, like another thing is the whole thing of Luke Skywalker turning his back, not wanting to help or anything. Because well, I mean, the dark side got to him, fear and such, and
Yeah.
people seem to forget about this. Where and best said by Yoda, that fear is the path to the dark side, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. And sadly, during that time of Last Jedi, that's what happened to Luke. It got to him. And even
Yeah,
when
he
he,
failed just like the original Jedi Order.
yeah, so he let that consume him and just totally flat out gave up until he managed to be convinced at the very end of Last Jedi. And I was going to say, because even when he comes back in Rise of Skywalker, he makes that very clear to Rey that fear got to him.
Yeah,
So,
it did.
so I mean, I don't really see what the big problem was to that.
I mean, even at the end, he does project himself to confront Kylo, and he even like trolls with the First Order. That's what I did like about that scene.
And that really showed that Luke became a very powerful Jedi in the
Yeah,
galaxy.
I
Yeah,
agree. I see.
and
You get
also
it.
yeah, but I will say that another thing that yeah, I could totally understand this. You know what? I would think so too. That why couldn't they just tell Poe Dameron in the first place that they did have a plan? And,
I
yeah,
didn't really
because
think too much about that, honestly. If that's okay.
no, that's fine. But also having Laura Dern be in this
I thought
film,
her
like,
character was okay.
yeah, I mean, no hard feelings on Laura because she's a great actress, and you know what?
Yeah, she
She
is.
she she was a perfect fit in the world of
Yeah,
Star Wars,
yeah.
and but it was
I,
still but it was still disappointing, like to have her take Akbar's place, who sadly was killed in the battle.
yeah,
But
Akbar's death. I didn't. I wasn't really. I didn't really. Ugh, sorry.
I'd like to,
But Akbar was death was something else.
in my opinion, I would like to think that probably the decision to kill Akbar might be because I want to say due to the sad passing of Akbar's original voice, maybe.
Yeah,
But I
Tim
mean,
Ross, I think his name is.
well, no, Tim Ross was the puppeteer. Like
Oh wow.
yeah, Akbar had a voice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, whom did reprise the voice role of Akbar for Force Awakens, but after
Yeah, he
that,
did.
yeah, but after that, that would be the last time he would do Akbar, because again, we would sadly lose him. But I'd like to think that's probably why, but I don't really know. Um,
Uh,
I mean,
I
you
feel
had
like
Tom.
within. Oh,
I was just gonna say because another good voice actor whom for a while had been the voice of Akbar for most of the video games and such. Tom Kane, I mean, he was a good choice. I
yeah,
even
Tom
recall
Kane
that.
too.
I even recall that Tom Kane, like, he had the balls to complain about the fact that Akbar was killed. He brought that up at Celebration, so man, that takes skill. But aside from Akbar, like, okay, like the character driven in this film, not bad. The introduction of Rose and what
I feel bad for Kelly Maitland. The bullying she got was terrible.
yeah, but it wasn't until Celebration 2019 that yeah, she got the support and such.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
And
I thought
I do
yeah,
like
see
Celebration because it
mhm.
can bring Star Wars fans together
Yeah,
and
so
not
I
make us think of the toxicity online.
yeah, so I thought Rose was a pretty good character.
Yeah,
Um I'd like to point this out because I know that my dad brought this up where he complained about the fact that Rose's theme is constantly played every time. But
I didn't really notice.
yeah, neither did I. But look, the obvious times for Rose's theme to play obviously is when we first are introduced to her, and even when they're on that planet, and Rose is talking about the experience of that planet, that sequence. That seems fitting, and Benicio del Toro, who's in this, the more we get of Snoke and how he's betrayed by Andy Serkis, the unexpected surprises, Yoda's appearance,
I did
the
like Yoda's
action,
appearance.
hmm and the fact that yeah, Yoda was a puppet.
Yeah,
Um,
Puppet Yoda.
uh
I
The
just love how
action,
he helps Luke get
yeah,
his realization. That's what I did like about that scene.
yep, and the action, the suspense, just to finish
It
what I have to
looks
say about
really good too.
yeah, but overall, and to finish what I have to say about Last Jedi, because I don't want to keep going on and rambling, but Last Jedi, look, it is what it is. Probably not what everybody was expecting, and I'm pretty sure like not like probably those at Lucasfilm like they probably didn't know what was really going to go down in Last Jedi and what Ryan Johnson brought, but at the same time, That's not to say that it's god awful or anything, at least, but at least in my opinion. But, Last Jedi may not be the best Star Wars film, but
You don't hate it though. Do you just it's just not your favorite?
I've made it clear. I don't know how many times to say this. I've made it clear. I don't hate any of the anything of the prequel of the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I
Yeah,
think what didn't work about the Last Jedi for me was the Canto Bite stuff. I thought the Casino stuff was all right looking, but then like
yeah.
the DJ character, I was not a fan of the DJ character. Even when I saw him in the movie, I was just like, I didn't really like that character. But overall, I think I had a great time with the Last Jedi. Is it my favorite Star Wars movie? No, but like I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
it's a very controversial Star Wars movie, yes, but like overall, I think I had a good time. It was magical seeing it in theaters, since
Oh,
I got to see
is
a
that
new
your
Star
next
Wars
one?
movie.
Is that your next one? Your next least favorite?
Yeah. One
Oh,
second.
okay.
Should we like? I don't know. Should we just turn this guy off? I don't know. Do we just ignore him?
I guess we should just ignore him. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh, my bad.
Right. But
I feel like for my second,
I finished up on Last Jedi. So what was your next one? Was it Last Jedi?
it was for me. It was probably the Rise of Skywalker because
Oh.
I think I had a fun time at the theater, but just like I felt it could have been like a better. It felt more like a finale to the sequels than to say like a finale to Star Wars. That's my big issue with it. And like the Palpatine returning didn't really work for me. Like they did it in Legends, the expanded universe, but they did it like in a more bizarre way. Even in this movie, they didn't really explain it, but I don't know. There were probably some things I did like about the Rise of Skywalker, but it's definitely not my favorite of the sequels, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And that probably goes for a good majority of others.
Did you want to say anything, or do I keep going?
Well, I mean, if you were you like, did you already finish your part on on your
I
next?
do like the scene between Kylo and Han Solo, like the vision
Mm-hmm.
Kylo has. I thought that scene was beautiful. And yeah, I don't know. There's not too much I have to say. I mean, I did like the Battle of Exegol, how all those ships came together, but I don't know. There's just I don't know. It was definitely I don't know. It could have been a lot better in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So
We do have another comment here from
yeah, yeah,
Jeffrey.
yeah. I'll pull it up.
This is a good
One second.
one. Yeah. From best to worst, X Strikes Back number two, A New Hope number three, Rogue One number four, uh, Episode three, Revenge of the Sith, and at number five, and Jedi number six, Attack of the Clones number seven, Phantom Menace at number eight, Force Awakens, and then I never saw the other two after that. Wow.
I don't know. I would give it the other ones a chance, but if you don't want to see them, that's okay.
I mean, Jeffrey, did you like Force Awakens? Because I know at that time, everybody loved Force Awakens.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah, but now that we had Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, now everybody's crapping on Force Awakens. Like, that's not right.
Yeah. I
Like,
mean, did you have to say anything about the Rise of Skywalker, Little Blue, Eli?
yeah, that was actually going to be my next one, coincidentally. So,
Did
yeah,
you
so
got anything to say?
so just a quick recap. The first one for us, for you, was Attack of the Clones. First one for me was Last Jedi. Your next one was Rise of Skywalker.
Yes.
Okay, so the next one for me, number two, my number two least favorite, is Rise of Skywalker. Yet again, I don't know how many times I have to say this. I don't hate the sequel trilogy. I'm just saying, but
Okay, you don't need
oh,
to keep verifying. It's okay. I
all
understand.
right, all right. Just, I mean, because they're in my least favorite, it's like, duh. But anyways, but yeah, Rise of Skywalker. The Oh my gosh, yeah, Jeffrey, you did not like Force Awakens, huh?
Hmm. Yeah. I guess
Oh,
he
well, I
didn't.
mean, that's your opinion. So, but
Yeah.
as I
Yeah.
was saying I'm sorry, Rise of Skywalker. Well, as I mentioned with Last Jedi, because it's not obvious that it's more than likely, yeah, because with what Ryan Johnson wrote and direct slash brought to Last Jedi might have caused some problems for um, what they like what what was, I guess, originally considered for Rise of Skywalker before
They did
Ryan
like
Johnson took
Duel of the
over.
Fates or whatever.
I
I
guess
think
so,
that's what they were
but
gonna do.
I know,
but
but I
then
mean,
they changed it.
there's so much detail that can be explained, but you know. But another big problem for Rise of Skywalker was the passing of Carrie Fisher, and
Yeah, it was
Princess
unfortunate.
Princess Leia was going to have a very prominent role in Rise of Skywalker, and that's the thing because with Force Awakens, Solo was one of the main staples of Force Awakens, while in Last Jedi, Luke was one of the main staples, and now with Rise of Skywalker, Leia. But because of Carrie Fisher's unexpected passing, things changed for Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
I
my
mean, I
mom
mean,
actually cried when she saw Leia. On spoilers, Leia dies.
well,
Unfortunately.
well, I think it's obvious that even after Carrie Fisher's passing, that yeah, they were gonna have to let the character of Leia die. So,
Yeah, I mean, my mom actually cried when she saw Leia die. It's like Carrie
mm,
Fisher meant a lot to her and to all of us, of course.
of course, yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's just it
think
was very unfortunate she passed away.
with the use of unused footage of Carrie Fisher in Force Awakens, deleted scenes, like and how it's incorporated and used in Rise of Skywalker, I think they executed that pretty good as best they could.
Yeah, they just did what they
The best,
could.
yeah, the best they could. Um, and to work in the footage and dialogue that Fisher had in Force Awakens in Rise of Skywalker. But also, great that we had another returning cast member from the original trilogy. Billy D. Williams as Lando Calrissian.
Yeah, I did like his return.
Yeah, it was about time after the first two that we did finally get Lando after all.
Hmm.
And yeah, and as you pointed out, Han Solo's appearance was great. Um, and also, where the story was going, that was it was not that bad. And even when, like, say, we find out that Rey is the granddaughter of Palpatine, and apparently, fun fact, that was like a last minute thing they did. The idea of Rey being a Palpatine.
I wasn't really sure about that plot twist, honestly.
Hmm.
I mean, what did you think of it?
Well, here's the thing, because my dad actually predicted this because,
Oh, good for him.
like, listen very closely. That means
Yes.
for not just you, Scott, but anybody who's watching. Like, listen very closely with what I have to say. When Force Awakens came out, and when the lightsaber duel happened, when we discover that Rey has the Force, if you pay close attention, some of the movements she does with the lightsaber, they almost resemble, like, it's like they're like some of the exact same moves, like, say, like Palpatine. It's
Yeah.
like, he's like throwing, like she's throwing the lightsaber or something, just, but my dad, he told me that when he noticed this, he was he had a theory, which he would eventually he called it, that maybe possibly Rey is a Palpatine. And sure enough, because yeah, when that happened is yeah, mind blowing. So
Yeah. I remember those old theories back in the day. It was kind of nostalgic. You talking about that?
yeah.
Uh,
I was just gonna say
oh,
Jeffrey
go ahead.
also comments, says, I think it suffered from the J.J. Abrams effect. Never been a big fan of the films. Okay, I don't know about that, Jeffrey, because look,
He did
what you
direct Star Trek.
yes, but if you do or not know the Scott, and this especially goes for you, Jeffrey. Look, Abrams was more, and before, and my dad knows this too. Before Abrams was involved in Star Wars and Star Trek, Abrams, he was a huge Star Wars fan, and
I believe that.
he wasn't really a huge fan of Star Trek. It wasn't until he got involved in Star Trek that he started to appreciate the characters of Kirk, Spock, everything else more than he did before.
Hmm.
Yeah, and of course,
I feel like people. I was told to watch Star Trek, but like, I don't know. It's just like, is it a world I should get into?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I'll give it a chance one day.
I mean, I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm also a Trekkie. So
Yeah.
who's to say people can't? Who's because yeah, both me and my dad are, and who's to say other people can't be both Star Wars and Star Trek
Yeah, there's
fans?
nothing wrong with that at all.
Nope. Um,
Did
it's
you
just
have
like
anything else to say about the Rise of Skywalker though, or you felt you said your
yeah,
piece?
yeah, I do because with Palpatine's return, that was pretty good, and
You
I
did like
think
it?
no, I think that I said that I think that was pretty good. To
Oh,
have
okay.
Palpatine back, and besides, he's the one that started it all.
Yeah, I
he's a
see what
key
you're saying.
he's a key figure. He's a key figure in the saga.
I do like his red robes in the movie when he drains the Force energy from Rey and Kylo.
Yeah, he's like his body regenerates.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and that's
I
and
do like the world of Exegol. It looks super creepy and like dark, like
hmm
something mysterious, if you know what I mean.
yeah.
Did you have anything else to say, or
Yes, I do. Very quickly, I think this comment goes to you, Anchorman. Jeffrey saying that Star Trek: The Next Generation should definitely be on your list of things to watch.
sure? I just need to
hmm
find it where it's on.
It's on Paramount Plus.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
have Paramount to watch Beavis and Butthead,
Well, I
essentially.
mean, well, besides, like Star Trek is Paramount property, so.
So it makes sense.
Oh yeah, of course. But as I was saying about Rise of Skywalker, yeah, Palpatine's appearance, and here's another thing. Like, I'd like to believe this, where Palpatine's appearance in Rise of Skywalker, like, it could be a clone of Palpatine. What do you
I
think
think
on
it
that?
was. It was like explained in the book, the
Yeah, because that,
novelization of Rise of Skywalker.
yeah, because that makes a whole lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, I feel like it would.
Yeah. Besides, like, look, Palpatine in Return of the Jedi was defeated. Like, he was literally obliterated
Yeah, he was thrown off.
When Vader, who became Anakin again, threw him and such. So, and that's another thing because it's like it's also said that some DNA samples of Palpatine were recovered or something, and thus making a new Palpatine. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, and because the balance was restored by Anakin, but somehow, yeah, the balance was doomed yet again and such. I
The
mean, I
Star
don't
Wars
know.
galaxy keeps continuing on, even if Palpatine and Vader aren't there to
Mm,
cause evil.
exactly, yeah. Also, nice to see that like say we
Oh,
had.
Mikey. Hey,
Hello,
Mikey, if you
Mikey.
want to join, we can send you a link.
Okay. Also, new characters that stepped in, like Kerry Russell, Richard E. Grant, more alien creatures. They were all great, and Dio. Dio was a cool droid, but.
I love Dio. He was adorable.
hmm
I
And
like
what do you
his
think?
thank you, or no, no.
What's that now?
I like his little noises he makes. He's like, thank you or whatever he says.
hmm
I thought that was funny.
I find it interesting that in at the celebration panel for Rise of Skywalker, Dio just made regular like droid sounds, but yet in the film he does talk.
I'm gonna put a link in the chat if that's okay.
Okay, so we're gonna have Mikey join.
Hopefully, if he can.
Okay. All right. Well, as I to
Should we
finish.
go with our next one since we talked about the
Well,
Rise of Skywalker for a
okay,
bit?
but to wrap up Rise of Skywalker, like a very quick mentioning, hearing those voices of say Snoke, Vader, and the Jedi. What about that? That was cool.
Oh, I love that. I wish they actually showed the Jedi as like Force Ghost or something. But like
hmm
the voices, I guess are fine. We did hear like Kanan Jarrus. I thought that was awesome.
And we only heard,
Ahsoka,
yeah, we heard Ahsoka once. She only had
Anakin.
one. She had one line.
Yeah. So it makes me
People,
wonder: is Ahsoka still alive, or did
Dave
she
Filoni.
become a Force ghost?
That's what I was going to bring up. Dave Filoni. I think just a few days after Rise of Skywalker. Actually, I think a week after the film's release and a day after Christmas. Filoni posted some like a drawing of Ahsoka and Gandalf, basically indicating and to give the people a hint that Ahsoka is still alive and present even after the events of the Rise of Skywalker.
She'd probably be old.
Well, I mean, I from what I know, because Ahsoka's species, like they don't really they don't age that quick or anything like that, like in a handful of years or something. Just
Interesting.
I believe so, but
Yeah.
anyway,
So
yeah.
so yeah, you gave your piece about Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, and I will say this: like, I don't mind the fact that we have Ray going by Skywalker, because why the heck would she go by Palpatine or
Why
something
would
like that?
anybody?
Exactly. But okay, but I'm done. I'm done.
Oh,
Overall,
I think Mikey's on.
Rise of Skywalker. It is what it is. They tried. J.J. Abrams tried, but yeah, bad
Hello,
luck.
Mikey.
Oh, hello, guys.
How are you
just
doing?
I'm doing good. Just pardon my voice. I just did a webcam about the brand new Pope, the American Pope, Robert Provost, known as Pope Leo the 14th. I just
Mm,
watched his speech on TV, on live. Well, here on
yeah.
our TV. So yeah.
We're ranking the Star Wars movies. We've already made it past our two least favorite. Now we're at our third, I guess you can say.
I think. Well, I think Anchorman, you've already did your first three, and I did my first
I
two.
think.
So.
Should I tell you what my next one is?
Oh, wait a second. Like, wait a minute. I remember now, because your first one was Attack of the Clones, then Rise of Skywalker. What was your third?
I think next probably be Solo, a Star Wars story. I don't hate the movie at all.
All right.
I
Well, go
just
ahead.
prefer the other ones.
Okay. Well,
Maybe.
go ahead with
So,
Solo.
hey guys, are we going from all nine, including the two short stories, Rogue One and Solo,
Yes, and
And
the Clone
and
Wars
the
movie.
Clone Wars movie.
and the
Yeah.
Clone Wars? Yeah, the animated Clone Wars. Yeah, both of those.
Mm-hmm. I guess I'll say what I think of Solo. I think
Go ahead.
Solo is a good movie. It's not my favorite Star Wars movie, but I do like how they explore the underworld aspect of Star Wars, and I do like Donald Glover as Lando and the guy who played younger Han Solo. Kira was
Yeah.
a fun character, and what else? I like the origin of the Millennium Falcon. How why it has like a giant. I don't know how to describe it. Like it's a giant, like sorry, giant dent in it. Like a,
Mm-hmm.
I think you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I
Well,
like how it also
I,
explores how they made the Kessel Run, and
yeah.
yeah, the Darth Maul
Well,
cameo was probably confusing to some, but I thought it
Well,
was
I
awesome to
mean,
see him. I was
the fact that Maul, this whole business that Solo finds himself in, and whom we find out is run by, was interesting. The fact that it's Maul, so
yeah,
especially yeah, Crimson Dawn, and how we would get more of Crimson Dawn, like say in season 7 of Clone Wars, and more likely when the Maul animated series hits.
I
Yeah,
can't wait for that.
we're going to get more of Crimson Dawn.
I
So.
hope we do get the Maul show soon. I'm really curious how they're gonna explore that aspect of
Mm,
Darth Maul before he shows up in Rebels.
yeah. Yeah, because I mean, the Maul show is supposed to take place 1 year after season 7, so.
Mm-hmm. What did you have to? Did you have to say anything about Solo, Mikey?
oh, what I was gonna say about Solo is I'm also trying to get a hold of Rogue One. I'm trying to get a hold of all of these Star Wars films, but so far of the Star Wars stories, I do have Solo, and I do like Donald Glover. I agree with you there. I really think the surprise actor in that Solo was Woody Harrelson's character. I really liked his character.
Yeah, he was
He
pretty
was like
fun.
the everyman. He was like the guy that he could smuggle you this, he could smuggle you that. Uh, you
Mm,
know, and he said he was the one that taught Han everything he knew, and I just thought that was kind of a cool you know character to look up to in the movie. So
yeah,
plus I'm a huge Woody Harrelson fan, so yeah,
I think my
I
parents like him
like
too.
that. Yeah.
Did you have to say anything, Eli?
About Solo?
Yes.
Well, not until I get there. When I get
Okay,
to Solo.
okay. What is your? Maybe we should go to you. What's your next entry?
Okay, well, let me see, because yeah, it was on my mind, and I'm sticking with it. Yeah, the next one for me, because okay, pretty much yeah, it's the next slash last one in the sequel trilogy, Force Awakens.
Mm.
Um,
I was
now,
rewatching it yesterday for my marathon of Star Wars.
yeah. Now, once again, because yeah, Force Awakens, that's a good one in the sequel trilogy, and again, there was a time when it came out, everybody it really enjoyed it. But until say Last Jedi and then Rise of Skywalker, now we have people trashing on Force Awakens as well, which is that's not right. But you know,
I yeah.
go ahead, Mikey.
Oh no, I was gonna say I can't see why they were um saying mean things about the Force Awakens.
As of now,
Uh, I I keep referring, and I hope you don't mind me doing this at least one more time, but I keep referring to the guy. You know, this was a theater in San Bernardino, California, and there's this 19-year-old. I think he was like 19 or 20. He had just seen A Force Awakens, so he had seen it before anybody else, like when it first premiered. And he comes out and he says, "Oh my God, I can't believe this! They killed Han Solo." And I swear
Oh,
the whole place went ape crap. And I mean, the next thing you know, this guy is near dead in a hospital, in a hospital room. I'm not sure what's happened to him since then, but he definitely does not give spoilers to movies anymore.
hopefully he
So
doesn't.
yeah,
yeah. Hmm.
it's
I
crazy.
think
When I first saw it, okay, when I first saw it, I always thought that if you're going to improve upon something, especially after seeing Return of the Jedi all those years ago, and then seeing the prequels, and I was like, okay. And then I saw the short stories, and I liked, I like Rogue One, mostly the middle of the story where Forrest Whitaker's in it. That's probably one of my uh, favorites, but I like Solo more because it gives a better background story, and I guess I feel bad for Ron Howard because he was the one that directed that, right? Solo. And I was
mhm.
Yeah,
like, and
yeah, he
I
does.
felt bad I felt bad for him because I don't think they gave him enough material on the background of, because don't forget, Han Solo was a member of the Imperial Navy at one time.
Mhm.
And then because he got a conscience and saw that what they were doing to the Wookiees on Kashyyyk, and that's why he went, crazy and, started killing some Imperial people, to protect the lives of those on Kashyyyk. And I was like, and that's how he got to be friends with Chewbacca. So, I thought that could have been examined a little bit more. Uh, and I also think that the way that Han decided to become more of a smuggler rather than, kind of be like more on the sidelines rather than like getting involved in any of the political, stuff between the Empire and the New Republic. That, I mean, to me, that was kind of, it was kind of left behind a little bit. It wasn't really explored upon or uh, talked about much. So I was kind of sad about that. I wish that, first of all, I wish they had done some more background of him. And I think that Ron Howard got gypped because that's why I feel bad for him because I don't think he wasn't given enough material to work with. And I don't know if he was a big, to be fair, because I like Ron Howard. I think he's a great director and producer. I really do. But I also think that he wasn't quite up on his own research of the Star Wars universe. I think he just kind of put it out there with what he kind of knew, but there should have been more. So, yeah, that's why I think let's say if we're talking about all of them, I'd say that is one of Solo is one of my better ones, but could have done more. And Rogue One, gosh, Rogue One, you only have like a couple of good moments. Of course, when you have, Vader going down the hallway chasing after the guys, who took the plans to the Death Star, and you hear all the Wilhelm screams and everybody get
Yeah.
Yeah.
cut down as he's trying to get to him. And somebody said to me the other day, they said, Vader should have just like, done more to go after him. Yeah. Um, yeah, the way it goes into New Hope, true, is genius. I do agree with that, Jeffrey. But what do you expect him to do? You want him to force leap and go after the ship itself, or do you want? I even suggested to one of my friends. I said, you could have just taken his lightsaber and thrown it at the ship engine or something, as it blasted off. You know. And oh, by the way, trivia: the name of the ship is called Tantive 4. That's the name of the Leia's ambassadorship. Well, you should call it ambassadorship, but yeah, it's called the Tantive 4. If you guys didn't know that, so that's kind of like a little
Mm-hmm.
Easter egg that leads into New Hope, Star Wars 4 and New Hope. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. What movie are we talking about again?
Oh, we were just talking about Solo and Rogue One. I'd say of the two
Well,
stories, I like Solo more than I do Rogue
well,
One.
and I was talking about Force Awakens because that was my next one.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and then Force
Go ahead.
Awakens.
Say yo. What do you want to say?
Yeah, so
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Force Awakens for me is, yeah, I mean, because like I said, at that time everybody enjoyed it, yada yada. But what Force Awakens had to offer with its story. The first Star Wars film, live action in general, in 10 years after, well, Episode 3, and the fact that Force Awakens taking place many years after Return of the Jedi, and, well, the Empire had risen, and it became the First Order, and new characters that step in from Poe, Finn, and Rey, and the main antagonist, Kylo Ren, members of the First Order. Harrison Ford's triumphant return as Han Solo, as well as Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill, who appears at the very end of the film, and the climax and the top secret stuff that we didn't know until we saw the film in theaters, and unexpected moments like, of course, Solo's death and the lightsaber duel, the fact that Rey has the Force in her and could soon become a Jedi, Star Killer base, great visuals, and with the ships, just, yeah, I mean, just everything about Force Awakens was extraordinary. And in fact, yeah, it was the biggest movie of that year.
Oh
and,
yeah.
and just, yeah, it was just extraordinary with what J.J. Abrams brought to it. And as I brought up earlier, that J.J. Abrams had been a longtime Star Wars fan, and the opportunity for him having to direct Star Wars, especially since after he directed Star Trek, just, yeah, excellent. And of course, you know, the other characters that are in there, like, well, even of course a new droid, which being BB-8, his design and look was amazing, and just, yeah, what more do I have to say? And Maz, another one too. Just overall, yeah, Force Awakens, it was excellent. Again, it's a shame that you know it now, for no reason, when people liked it, they really did. Now they're just bashing on it, trashing it. Just, it's just, it doesn't
Well,
make any sense. But
Uh,
well,
sadly that's just how it is. But overall, yeah, Force Awakens being right there.
should I talk about it when? Sorry to cut you off, but like, should I talk about it it gets to my pick on it?
Well, yeah, of course.
uh,
Okay.
yeah, well, of course.
I'm pretty much done with Force Awakens with what I have to say. So
Should I go next? Well, my
Excuse
next
me.
one is.
go ahead.
Yeah.
For me, it's like the Phantom Menace, but like I really have a lot of
Oh,
appreciation for the Phantom Menace. So
okay.
I
Yeah.
like.
Phantom Menace. Yeah.
I
Well,
saw
go
the
ahead,
25th
Anchorman.
anniversary
What do you
last
have to
year.
say about it? Yeah.
Uh, so I enjoyed the Phantom Menace a lot. I mean, I know people don't like Jar Jar, but like
Yeah.
I don't really mind them.
Jar Jar Binks is. Let me intrude for a moment. Jar Jar Binks wasn't meant to be that uh annoying.
Mm.
Initially,
I did my review
he
on
did
it.
have a plan in place. I'm so sorry. He did have a plan in place. Uh, and I'm sure that some people might disagree with me. But I do believe that he had an agenda. Now, I don't know if it was supposed to be more of a Jedi part of an agenda or more of a Sith part of an agenda?
The
Most
Darth
people
Jar Jar.
say, yeah. Well, most people said that Jar Jar ended up being Smoke or Snoke. I don't see that. I don't think I
No.
understand that happened. Yeah, that didn't happen. You can't tell me you turned into Snoke. Yeah. No, he didn't do that. I believe that when it comes to Jar Jar Binks, especially, here's the thing. We already knew that throughout the prequels, this was the plan of Chancellor Palpatine was to take over the Imperial Senate and
Mm-hmm.
then the Senate, and then we had a realization right later on that he becomes, that he is Darth, Palpatine. He's the one who killed Plagueis to take his power, and this was all planned out. So my feeling was Jar Jar Binks was just a pawn in the whole entire scheme that Palpatine came up with during those prequels. And in the part where it was important that you vote, the military act, and it was important for, Amidala to be there, but because she was preoccupied, she said, before her life, and that's of course set into motion as well, going after her. So for her to be distracted and then to go ahead and rely on Jar Jar to represent Naboo and their vote and say they want to go for it and to wholly back the Chancellor, you know,
Yep.
without realizing who he really is, until later.
Mhm.
And that was the whole thing for me. It's like
Mhm.
Jar Jar is a smart person. He's a smart
Yeah.
species. He's not stupid. And I
He can
mean,
swim.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, and he can do all that. But the thing was that I think people either misread or they misinterpreted Jar Jar Binks as being a dummy. He isn't. He has an agenda in mind. He had a plan in place,
Yep.
and that could have been planted. Like I said, that could have been planted very easily
But despite the fact
through
that,
subtle.
despite the fact, I don't mean to cut you off, but also despite the fact, not intentionally, that yeah, according to Jar Jar, he can be a good chunk of times clumsy.
Right.
Hmm. You were
Yes.
banished because you were clumsy.
Yep.
Yeah.
But luckily, there were a few times, like I mean, even in the Battle of Naboo, where yeah, the Gungans fought off the battle droids. That you know, Jar Jar being clumsy at times, but at the same time, some good things came from his clumsiness in the battle. So
Yeah.
Exactly, which is why I didn't. It's why I tell people it's like don't underestimate Jar Jar. When like I said, when he voted for the Clones Act, in Congress, he was straightforward with it. He already had it in his mindset that he was going to do that and to
yeah,
give the chancellor emergency powers. Like I said, nobody at this point knew at that point that Palpatine was going to be emperor and turn it into an entire imperial senate and everything. Nobody knew that yet, but the manipulations were already in place, and Jar Jar, through no fault of his own, had made up his decision that yes, we should support the chancellor, and so that was all on him. And that doesn't make him stupid at all. In fact,
no,
that makes him, straightforward. That he knows what he wanted, to help his planet. He just wanted to help Naboo out. And he loved. Obviously, he loved Amidala and cares about Annie and and all that, and he loves the Jedi. So I think he did it with the best of intentions. That's my whole deal, and I hate that when people trash him. That's why I like Phantom Menace a lot because you know it's a good beginning, and you know I don't understand why they trash him. I don't. I think Jar Jar is cool. I think it's you know what I do it as a homage, kind of a joking kind of homage to J.J. Abrams. I call him Jar Jar Abrams because
mm,
because he worked on it, So I mean, it's just kind of a homage to him in a way. Yeah, but Yeah, I would say that's one of my better or of the early prequels was uh definitely Phantom Menace, and then I would say uh Revenge of the Sith obvious is great, but we'll get to that later because there's one thing I still bothers me. So
So yeah, I think I like the Phantom Menace. I like the Darth Maul stuff. The pod race is a lot of fun. Probably my favorite lightsaber duel of all time is the Duel of the Fates.
Yep.
yes,
The music was like perfect for it.
well that was John Williams, of course. Yeah,
Of course, yeah.
I mean John Williams is a genius. Yeah,
I just feel bad for little boy Anakin because I know hopefully he's doing better now.
He is, yeah, he is.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, and even Mark Hamill stated this that about Jake Lloyd, where Mark said that George told Jake exactly what he wanted Jake to do. So
right.
yeah,
yeah. Uh,
is there anything else you want to say about Phantom Menace,
I
Scott?
feel like I really liked the finale because when I saw it in theaters, it felt so exciting to watch. Like I
Yeah,
Hmm.
love the Naboo stuff, the lightsaber duel. Like I said, I'd even like the end part of the ceremony after the everything is saved. I thought that was really good. Overall, I think the Phantom Menace is definitely a good Star Wars movie, and I really like Qui Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan's dynamic, and like
yeah,
further shows like early stages of what Anakin would become because he lost Qui Gon.
yeah. Well, and of course, there's that line from Jake Lloyd. He says, "Now this is pod racing."
Hmm. Yeah.
Even the introduction of C-3PO and R2 was good.
Yeah, yeah, that was a good introduction, especially to C-3PO,
Mm-hmm.
because originally he was meant to be what he was meant to be the droid to help his mother around the house, things like that, and to help out mom. I guess that's why he said he created him in the first place, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I like that origin story. That it meant to me. This meant to me the most of Phantom Menace was that Anakin Skywalker, who becomes Darth Vader, but then he reprises. He restores his faith back in Jedi. Doing what he does later on in Episode 6. But uh, the fact that we realize he is the creator of C-3PO, he's the one who made him,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I
I
like
mean
that too.
that means the most to me because I'm like because whenever Han Solo makes fun of C3PO, I think indirectly he's also making fun of Luke's father, Luke and Leia's father, because we find out that is Anakin. But I mean, it's just, crazy. It's just crazy. Yeah, just
I think that's it for me for the Phantom Menace. But should we move on, or
yeah. Let's move on. Which other
Yeah.
one are you
and
looking
Eli
at?
will say what he thinks later?
Right.
What's next for you on your list, Eli?
Yeah, I mean it's a toughie. I mean, I guess yeah. My next one's gonna be Solo. Um, so for me, Solo, like, yeah, I mean, because I liked Solo. I thought it was pretty good, but yeah, I mean, I can understand the fact that, and and in respect to those, how they felt about Solo, and probably still do, because, well, the fact that Rogue One turned out to be a pretty good, successful spin-off, like, everybody was really hoping that, yeah, Solo was going to be fantastic. In fact, I recall hearing this. I know my dad did, where someone who was working at Lucasfilm, like a concept artist or someone, had gotten a look at the script and stated that this was the best script of all time. So that seemed pretty good, and well, because indication that Solo might turn out to be pretty good. Besides, this is Han Solo we're talking about, but when it did come out, yeah, it was a mixed bag. I mean, but for me, I'm one of those that did enjoy it. I think that the younger version of Solo and what's in face who played Solo, I think he did pretty good, and I think that maybe it was for the best, like not to probably, just not do an impression of Harrison Ford because, this is, Solo is a character. And yeah, even though despite the fact Harrison incorporating like his mannerisms to the character of Solo still, but this being young Solo, and the
It,
fact, yeah, we would see the origin slash beginnings of when, like, say, Solo met Chewbacca, and the fact that, yeah, as it was in the comics, it's great that this was incorporated officially into canon. That Solo for a while did work in the Empire, but eventually, yeah, he abandoned the Empire for good reasons, and
yeah,
his mentor being played by good old Woody Harrelson,
yeah,
and
of course.
his first love played by the talented Emilia Clarke, and Crimson Dawn and Paul Bettany, who's one of the main guys of Crimson Dawn. But until we meet the actual main guy who runs Crimson Dawn, which being Maul, that was great to see Maul. The other characters that are in this, like the one that Jon Favreau voiced and the one female who's alongside with Harrelson, those group of characters where, yeah, Warwick Davis was one of them, they were pretty good too. And
Yeah, that was actually a pleasure seeing Warwick Davis again. Yeah, because
mhm,
that's because he's been Warwick Davis has in my honest opinion, Warwick Davis has contributed more to Star Wars than almost any character, save for the original uh, three that you had in Carrie and Harrison and Mark in the original, in the originals, as well as briefly appearing in the the first two sequels. Because Warwick's been an Ewok, and and he was in this, and he's been some other smaller characters. He even helped out. Did you know that we had Kenny Baker, who was in R2D2. Warwick Davis, who knows Kenny Baker really well, he needs to go back
yep,
years, friends and whatever. Sometimes Kenny got tired. So I never knew this until somebody told me, but it made sense. So sometimes Kenny Baker wouldn't be inside the R2D2 machine. It would be Warwick, and Warwick would be helping out and doing in there.
hmm,
And I thought that makes a lot of sense. That's pretty cool that those
yep.
two were together. Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, not to
yeah,
mention that even Kenny Baker made an appearance in, say, Willow. Yeah, which that movie was Warwick
yeah.
Davis's. That was his movie. So
Yes.
Well,
because George Lucas,
do you guys remember? Oh, I'm
I was
sorry.
just, I was just gonna say because fun fact. Another fun fact about Will is that after Return of the Jedi, and yeah, because George had a was delighted by Warwick Davis and liked Warwick and with his work and as Wicked, he then came up with the idea of giving Warwick his own movie, and thus Willow was specifically written for Warwick. So
Yes.
And don't forget that it was Ron Howard who directed Willow.
that's right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he
So
did.
Ron Howard.
So
That's
yeah,
and another thing is that look, this is like Ron Howard has has a history with Lucasfilm where he worked with Lucas in the American Graffiti films. Then Ron, who would go on to be a director, would go
yeah,
on to direct Willow, and then years later would then direct, say, Solo, and even his daughter Bryce would go into the directing business, doing some Star Wars stuff as well.
yes.
Mm.
Yep.
And what also is cool is, if you guys remember, that's kind of off subject, but if you guys remember, both Kenny and Warwick appeared together in Time Bandits with
Yep.
Sir
Uh-huh.
Sean Connery.
Yeah, I remember Tom Bandits.
Time Bandits, yeah, that Terry Gilliam awesome film, man.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That
Yeah,
one.
that for me is like it's like a continuous union. It's like a friendship. Yeah, and I can see it now. I can see that only Ron Howard would be uh given the free reign that George Lucas would provide him to do a Star Wars story like that, like Solo, because because Ron Howard does have a way of bringing uh characters like that, their backgrounds and stuff, into more of a favorable light. That we could see that Han was not just a rogue, right? That he did have a heart. He had a conscience, and made him more of a well-rounded character. That's what I like movies like that do that. Um,
Mhm.
that was my thing with Solo. Yeah, and I feel bad for the actor who played him. Um,
Yeah.
he could have done him better. I wish, but
Yeah, I
he
think
did have
even
supporting
and
characters
I think
there.
even Harrison himself complimented on him as young Solo. So
Well, yeah, and well, Harrison Ford, actually, if I recall correctly, gave the guy Eisenreich, I think his name was, something like that. He said, yeah, he could play me at a young age, uh, but I wish they could have done more with me at that younger age. Even Ford admitted to that, and I was like, yeah, I agree, I agree. There was very little that Ron Howard had to work with. And
Yeah,
I
didn't
think
they
he
do
did the best he
reshoots
could.
for
And I
Solo?
feel, yeah, yeah. And I feel the best. I feel like Ron Howard did the best he could under the circumstances. I really do. And he gets a lot of flack. And I'm like, no, no, Ron Howard doesn't deserve that. Ron Howard, uh, he'll get sympathy. He'll get some empathy from me too. Because I know he's not perfect. He's made some bad movies. But but the thing is, uh, I don't think Solo is one of them. I don't think it was a bad film. I think that he just wasn't given enough to work with and did what he could. That's
Yeah.
that's how I like Solo more than I do Rogue One because you know.
Mhm. Do you got anything else to say, Eli, or that's it?
of Solo, well, I mean, just overall, because Solo may not be another perfect Star Wars film, but that's not to say there's anything bad about it at all. Just yeah, but Solo, it is what it is. But so yeah, that's that.
Yeah, yeah, it's out there.
Mm.
Uh, so I guess we move on to my next one then.
Yes, we
I
do.
made a
Yes.
mistake because I was looking at my ranking. Apparently, sorry, that was my dog.
Hey, Anchorman. Scott. Can we go over what you already the ones you mentioned?
Okay,
Just
so
so we know we're not.
Yeah,
originally it was
a
actually I made a
very
mistake,
quick.
but it was Attack of the Clones, Rise of Skywalker, then it was Solo, and then next was actually the Clone Wars movie, but then the Phantom Menace.
Yeah. Now you do know there are two Clone Wars movies. There's the one that Tartakovsky created, the guy who created Samurai Jack. He put together 40 different segments of 5-minute snippets of his film as the Clone Wars. And George Lucas himself said, hey, I like it. Why don't you create it as a film? And he did. So what happened was I honestly, and I had it one time, but I lost it, and I'm trying to find it again.
I need to
It
buy
is,
one.
The problem
yeah,
is, well,
yeah,
here,
I know,
but here's the problem. The and it's now referred to as the micro Clone Wars. The
right,
problem is that they were not theatrical. So
right. But they made it into a film anyway. They
yeah, but
took all the
still,
segments and created a 2-hour film. Well,
well,
in
they
my
were.
honest,
Well, it's two films. They were split. So
yeah, but in my honest opinion, and I mean, I own the second one. I have the second Clone Wars here, which came out a little bit after that first one.
mhm.
But the Tartakovsky one, to me, is the definitive. I mean, it is the filler that all I want to say that all Star Wars creators of fan films or so on would want to aspire to. And even though it is animated, which I agree, um, but I mean, literally, it takes from the very end of Attack of the Clones and fills in a microcosm, and which is why I think you call it the micro Star Wars, right? Film, because it takes a microcosm of the entire Clone Wars, plays through it, and then it gets right to the opening of Star Wars 3, of Revenge of the Sith. Literally, like where they're flying over Coruscant and battling, to go after Chancellor Palpatine. And I mean, it's perfect. I mean, if you have to, you just fill it in there. It's right there. So if you want a microcosm of what the Clone Wars was all about, Tartakovsky tells it best, in my honest opinion. I really enjoyed that film.
Yeah. So for me, the next one was gonna be the Clone Wars movie. I it's like a bunch of episodes put into one movie. I guess it was George Lucas's idea, but I think the
Yeah,
Clone Wars movies is
yeah,
it's
George wanted to have the first batch of like episodes like be as a movie. So
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what
Overall,
he told. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think I did like the Clone Wars movie. It's not my favorite. I think the animation looked kind of off, but that was like the early start of the Clone Wars animation,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
and I do
yeah,
like the introduction of Ahsoka.
yeah, I do like that too, and I like the
Um,
fact that what I heard about between the when Tartakovsky first started creating these 5 minute snippets, and Lucasfilm or George Lucas himself started to watch them at night, and he says, I like this concept. He says, they're fulfilling the dream that I wanted to talk about without going into a huge um, trilogy or anything. But he says, I like the fact that they're talking about the Clone Wars as it is, as it stands. And it really it's almost in a way, if you watch it the first time, you're thinking, okay, this is a Clone Wars documentary. It's a documentary about the war itself, and it tells you who's all involved and all the characters and everything that's going on, when it started back with Attack of the Clones, in the second movie, and now it's just telling you here's the course of the film of the war and everything going on, and then all of a sudden the epitome of it or the end of it is supposed to come when we start with Revenge of the Sith, where then finally Palpatine's exposed for who he is, a Sith Lord, you know, like Samuel L. says, before he runs in there, Mace Windu. Um, but it's so fascinating, and of the two animated ones, I think it's more my favorite than the other one. And unfortunately, I do have the other one, but I mean, but it's okay. It's not bad. I'm just saying that I like the Tartakovsky more creatively, and I loved when Tartakovsky did Samurai Jack. That to me is one of the all time, like, one of my favorite Toonami, or like one of my favorite uh, animated films that the cable did back in the time. So yeah, I'm really happy that he's part of the Star Wars universe, which but that's me on that. But yeah, definitely.
the Clone Wars movie for me, it just I don't know. I do like I said earlier. I said I like the introduction of Ahsoka. The story was mainly fine with them trying to rescue Rada the Hutt, which I heard is going to be in the Mando Grogu movie. So I'm wondering what they're going to do with Rada the Hutt.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
we'll
I don't
find
know.
out.
I don't know what else to say about it. I do like the voice cast. Like I think of those voices really well when I think of Star Wars actors. Besides the movie or live action actress, and I like to think of the voice actors too. Like it was
Yeah,
perfect for what they did with it, them in the Clone Wars movie and in the micro series, like you said, Mikey. But yeah, should we move
yeah,
on to the next one?
yeah.
And
What's the next one there?
I guess Eli goes next.
Yeah,
Oh, Eli.
yeah. So let me see. So yeah, from Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, Force Awakens, Solo. Well, well, I mean, I'm guessing probably the Clone Wars movie. Yeah, since I now it's my turn to talk about the Clone Wars movie. But yeah, I mean, um, so just a few years after Revenge of the Sith, we would technically get another theatrical Star Wars film, this time animated. The fact that you know plans to expand more on the whole Clone Wars era, to see more of it, and which of course this Clone Wars would now become canon to Star Wars. And yeah, technically. most of the micro Clone Wars not being considered canon. But yeah, but I of course remember when the Clone Wars movie was coming, and the introduction of Ahsoka, and when seen in theaters. And I was one of those very few people that actually liked the character of Ahsoka right away, like that. And then, of course, months later, when the show happened, and yeah, because the Clone Wars show was one of my jams at that time, of course, and of course, like as the show kept on going, and that was the only piece of Star Wars that that we had. But up until when, like, say, it did sadly get canceled, then a year later after its cancellation, then we would get season 6. But with the movie itself, yeah, because I mean, yeah, I think especially at that time, the Clone Wars movie was not. It was not that well received. But I kind of feel like as of now, probably yeah. I think yeah, it's gotten more bit of love and appreciation where Clone Wars got up to the show mainly, um, and you know the fact that the animation, like compared to that with say the animation very later on in Clone Wars, yeah. Well, I mean that was just the beginning. That was just the beginning of Clone Wars. So there's who can argue with that. And The plot line, it was not that bad. It was not There's nothing wrong with it, but yeah. But I mean, I understand that was George's suggestion and what he wanted to do with the beginning of Clone Wars and that batch of episodes. But yeah, I mean, I think just overall, the Clone Wars movie, it is what it is. It's fun to watch, and well, of course, without the Clone Wars movie, like look where the Clone Wars would go to and such. But just yeah, overall,
Yeah.
I enjoy the Clone Wars movie. I really do,
Yeah.
and yeah. So that's what I
Yeah,
have to say about the Clone Wars movie.
yeah. I just want to say one more thing about, like I said, I believe that both of the Clone Wars films, both of those animated films, do complement each other. Um, like we said, as one gives you a microcosm of what the whole war was about and how it became what it was until you know episode 3, and then of course when you have the other one, which gives you more of a scope of what's happening with the Ahsoka introduction and everything. Uh, both of those Clone Wars films do complement each other, and it adds to the universe. I think it does. I think it adds a lot to the universe. I wish, and I know you guys have told me this before. I wish that they would grab some of these writers, some of these wonderful people that have created these Star Wars fan films, which very easily, like any of the fan films, could easily fill in gaps, places in between the movies themselves, and do it well. And I wish that Lucasfilm and some of the others, especially Kathleen Kennedy herself, I wish they would go out there and recruit these writers and these creators and say, "Hey, could you create a really good live action or even a better, um, you know, series of movies that we could put in and fill in the entire universe? Even stuff that would come after episode 9, if we are, because they've already said, they're going to do 10, 11, and 12. They're planning this already, and I'm saying, but how can you do this? I mean, your last 3 of the 9 never did too well, according to most people, and even purists like myself, who, I was 13 years old when I saw Star Wars for the first time. I went out there on an opening day and I stood out there for over 3 hours in the Arizona sun waiting to go see my first premiere of it. And I read the books, I wish that they had put Truce and Bakura uh, after episode 6, because it would have been perfect, with the remnants of the Empire and the Republic, facing the Shiruk, and then the Yonzat Vaughn, them two. I wish they had done that, but they never did. And you know. But if there are creators out there and writers who can fit, can fill the gaps, and some of these fan film people have been fantastic at doing that, but they just need more money. I think they should be the ones that should continue the story, um, either in between the gap, because I think there's a big gap there between episode 6 and episode 7 with Force Awakens. I think they need to have some people put something together. At least if you're going to do one more, Star Wars story, then put something together between 6 and 7, or do a story, uh, just after 9, but before you decide to create 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hmm. Should I? Well, you. I don't know. Should I say what I'm
I,
gonna?
I mean, I already finished my part. I already finished on Clone Wars, the Clone Wars
Me
movie.
too.
Yeah, me too. So
Yeah. So
go
you.
ahead. What's your next one
So,
there, Scott?
so it is your turn, Anchorman. So
Okay, so my next one was The Last Jedi. I feel I have a lot of nostalgia going to that theater when I went to go see The Last Jedi. It's not my favorite Star Wars movie, like I said earlier, but there was a lot that happens in The Last Jedi for me. I don't know if I said it enough. Do you think so, Eli, or should I say
I mean,
what
go ahead. Like anything else you wanted to mention that you didn't mention before, just yeah.
I do like the throne fight scene with those guards. I like that scene was super
Oh, you
intense.
mean with the Scarlet Guards? Yeah, the ones that Ray and
Kylo,
Ren and Kylo were fighting.
yeah. I thought Snoke's death. I wasn't expecting it, honestly.
I
But
was, I was expecting it,
are you,
but I didn't think it would. Well, don't get me wrong. I didn't think that it would be done the way it was going to be done. I knew that Snoke was going to be killed. Now, whether or not it was going to be by Ray's hand or by Kylo's hand, I wasn't even sure. Uh, but one of them was going to kill him. I mean, it was pretty obvious. I
yeah,
mean, these are Ren. Kylo Ren. Okay, I, I would consider a young, ambitious Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ben Kenobi, being ambitious. I see that through the eyes of Ewan McGregor, and I understand. So he's the more rambunctious, more ambitious, uh, you know, and Liam Neeson playing, his mentor. I can see it. I can see it as him being more traditional, more upright. About about the legacy of the Jedi. Um, I see that, and then Anakin, who to me, Anakin is one of those that he knows what he's about, but then he doesn't kind of like he doesn't want to believe that things are as they were, and he just gets caught up in the whole. Um, my estimation is he gets caught up in the whole uh, politics of it. He gets up into all the uh, control of it, and he doesn't realize that Palpatine was manipulating him from the very beginning until later, until he finds out, and then of course, when Obi-Wan thinks he defeats him, and then of course he ends up becoming Vader, and all this stuff. And then of course now you look at with Last Jedi, you truly see that Kylo Ren and Ray are like they're obviously two opposite peas in a pod. Kylo Ren is more of trying to bring back tradition. He's trying to bring back what has already been lost. And of
Yeah.
course, his uncle is technically, Anakin or Darth Vader was like his uncle. It was like his family. And Ray is still trying to find her place in the world, so she's a rebel. She's definitely a rebel until we find out where she really comes from in the ninth one. Yeah. And see, okay. Last Jedi to me was a weak one. I think it's the weakest one of the three. I only say that because uh to me it was like it kind of, what it does is it kind of confuses me more because I wanted Kylo to be the good person eventually. I wanted to see that. I wanted to see him become not just trying to become Vader, but he's trying to become more of like Luke in a way. And then I see Ray, who's you know too ambitious and too uh, less controlled than what the Jedi Order demands, and she's more of a free spirit, right, guys? So I, yeah, that's why I think the Last Jedi for me is the less of the three of the sequels. If you want me to be honest, it is my lesser of the three that I like. Because I would go with Force Awakens. Then yeah, I would go second, which would be the Rise of Skywalker, and then I go with the last one, the Last Jedi. So yeah,
For me, it's like I enjoyed the Last Jedi. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I enjoyed it overall. There was probably some things that didn't work for me, but overall, I think I had a great time with it. And I was really interested what they did with Luke. Like I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but it was surprising what they did with Luke. But I think overall, I had a great time with the Last Jedi. But do you think I
yeah.
said enough or something?
Oh no, no, no. Eli had to step away for a moment, so
Oh, he
he
did.
was just telling us. Yeah, he said in private there to had to step away for a moment.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So no, I mean, Scott, I understand that you do like it, and I do too. I mean, to like you said, to an extent, but I do feel like it's the lesser performing movies of the sequels. I really do.
I think the Rise of
I
Skywalker didn't really work for me.
yeah,
That's how I feel.
yeah, sure. Um, oh, hey, welcome back, Jeffrey
Oh, he's
Alpo.
back.
Yeah, he's back. Yeah, people kind of said that the new trilogy just got worse. It went, but listening in now, maybe I should watch it anyway. I think
Yeah,
you
you
should.
should. Jinx.
I think you should give it a second look. Definitely, 7, 8, 9. Definitely should give it a second look.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, yeah, I would say so. Um, yeah. See, for me, it seemed like all it was about you know the battle with Snoke and killing him and doing all this other stuff, and it just seemed like it was underperforming. I think there was a lot more revealed in the third one, which was a twist because
Yeah.
realizing that Ray is a Palpatine, right? And
Hmm.
that, yeah, that was a big twist. I
It
have to
was.
say, yeah, and a lot of people were not happy about that. They said,
I
"Well,
was like
Ray is
unsure about
supposed to
it
be
honestly.
Skywalker. She's not supposed to be, Palpatine, but she is. That's how she was.
Hmm.
She was raised a Palpatine. So, um, yeah, I thought that was a little bit better explanation of how she came to be. Because really, if you look at Last Jedi is just kind of being there. It's in the middle, and unlike you know, unlike Attack of the Clones, and this is really sad because unlike Attack of the Clones, where it was the middle of their three, and it was probably the more expanding the fights and all the duels and everything that went on, and then you had the same thing with the Empire Strikes Back, the middle one of that one, uh, and then you have and then eight is the Last Jedi is the middle of the sequel trilogy they call it. Um, and that sequel didn't get a lot of response from me. I think it's okay. I don't mind the fight scenes because I think they're pretty cool, especially with the Snoke and the guards and everything. Um, but it doesn't really address like the overall story. I think what it does is it helps to plot it along. And I mean, have we already talked about? Yeah, we talked about Force Awakens. Okay, because I wanted to say Force Awakens to me is basically a carbon copy of Star Wars. It's basically Episode 4, but in the future, and it's a little It's only slightly different in some parts, but the rest of it, it's basically a rehash of Star Wars 4. It really is. Um, which I didn't mind. Of course I was sad to see Han Solo get cut down, but hey, by his own son. What could they do? But it's like, but then uh, all you're seeing is just how free spirited Kylo Ren and Rey are in the eighth one, and I think they're more established. I think by the time you reach uh, the Rise of Skywalker, I think you realize, that excuse me, that Luke Skywalker can't do any more with Rey. He already knows that Rey is fully in the Force. He can't do much more. He can't train her. He can't do any of that. He doesn't want to make that mistake that he made with Ben, with Ben Solo. Um, Again, I mean, he doesn't want to make that second mistake, and I think that it only encourages, because he doesn't want to make a mistake. I think it encourages Rey to pursue more, and she's afraid to find out, what she's about. But then you find out. Um, yeah, I mean, for me, if that finishes it, I think that's the last of the Last Jedi is kind of the weakest point.
Okay, I'm back.
Oh, you're
For
back.
me.
Thank goodness.
Welcome back, Eli.
I
Welcome
think
back.
I
Yeah,
said enough about the
I had
last
to do
Jedi.
I had to do a few things. So
Oh, okay, you're good.
Yeah.
I gotta take my dog out. Maybe Eli, you can go next if you're the one you
yeah,
wanted to do.
because I was
Just tell me before I go out.
okay. Well, I mean, I'm next, so yeah, I'll take it
Okay,
from
go ahead.
here. So okay, so next one for me. Uh, hmm. Well, I mean, yeah, because and to a lot of people and how they feel about it, but I don't know, because like even as of now, uh, this one particularly, I guess, yeah, it's gotten some bit of love and appreciation as of now, but still, it's not quite up there being one of the like best Star Wars films, but still, but yeah. So, all right, so the next one for me is gonna be Attack of the Clones. So, yeah, Attack of the Clones, like, I mean, because when Phantom Menace, when the prequel trilogy began, starting with Phantom Menace, yeah, very mixed reception. But it wasn't until Attack of the Clones that, yeah, more mixed reception, and but at the same time, like some good things did come the uh, from Attack of the Clones Episode 2. Not to mention, like, if anybody has seen and watched the documentary series on Disney Plus, Light and Magic, well, and with Season 2, they go into more detail on, say, the prequels. And when it came to, say, Attack of the Clones, George Lucas would make would make a new change, and yeah, like doing digital cameras, and thus Attack of the Clones would be the first Star Wars film to be shot digitally and such, with the aid of Sony and also Panavision doing it as well. But yeah,
Yes, Jeffrey, that's true. It gave us the first real appearances of Coruscant
yeah, I
and
mean,
how
because
important it was.
yeah,
I
I mean,
like the
'cause
Death Stiff guy.
we went for because yeah, in Attack of the Clones, even though because yeah, we did get Coruscant in Phantom Menace, not a lot of it, but in Attack of the Clones, we dive further into Coruscant because yeah, that speeder chase, that was pretty cool, and the going further into Coruscant and the traffic of vehicles, and and I think that because the plot line for Attack of the Clones and the fact because we finally get to see the whole thing that was mentioned in the original trilogy, the whole Clone Wars thing. We get to see that happen. This was the beginning of the Clone Wars, where apparently, because the whole thing of clones being made and for a grand army of the Republic was kept secret for a while until it was discovered from, say, through Jango Fett, and when, yeah, like Obi-Wan investigating further finding an uncharted planet. Well, that was kept.
Geonosis, right? Yeah.
No, that was Camino.
Oh,
Because
Camino. Oh,
Camino
yeah,
is
the
where
Caminoans, right? The Caminoans creating the clones, but
and where Django
also the
Fett
fact that
resides.
Geonosis was where the bots were being made, right?
Yes,
So,
yeah, and we're in on Camino where Django Fett resides. So Obi-Wan finding Camino, discovering the whole thing of the clones, which was approved of by a Jedi in the Jedi
Boss.
Order, Sifo
Yeah, it
Dyas.
was. I forget his last name, but it was, or I'm sorry, his first name, but it was
I did say his full name.
Voss. Was it
His
Voss?
full,
His last
it,
name was.
his
Yeah,
his full name. The full name of the Jedi who approved of the army was Sifo Dyas.
Sifo Dyas. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Obi-Wan discovering the whole thing of the Grand Army for the Republic, which being the clones, and Jango Fett was a specimen on bringing these clones to life. They look like him and such. So he was the volunteer, which actually because there was a video game which came out around the time of Attack of Clones where because the early days of Django and where Palpatine and
The Jango Fett
Dooku,
game.
yeah, the Django Fett game, where Dooku especially has an offer for Django, which of course being the specimen for the clone army, which he would accept. And so and Tamara Morrison, who's Django Fett, and the fact that Boba is a clone, that was great. And also the whole romance between Anakin and Padme. I mean, say what you will, but I think because it was pretty done well, and the fact that they have to live a lie, and because the positions that they're in, just but at times they manage to work it out, but and also the fact that we would finally get to see a CG Yoda was great. We get more of the Jedi in the temple, and when we see them in action, and even say, of course, most notably Samuel L. Jackson in action as Mace Windu with a
The
purple
purple
lightsaber.
lightsaber.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And you know what I liked about that too was the other thing I liked about it is the fact that Count Dooku got to fight Yoda, and Yoda was
yeah.
Count Dooku's apprentice.
Yes.
That blew me away.
Hmm.
Like you are fighting, and that's that's just a harbinger of what was to come. On Mustafar when you had in the third one when you had Anakin fighting his master, in Ben Kenobi and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I thought, yeah, this is an instant of where the upstart apprentice, in this case being Count Dooku, decided he wanted to pursue the dark side. So when you see him fighting against Yoda,
Yep.
Yoda's disappointed because he did turn to evil. And of course, the same thing comes about in the third one, which I think is fascinating. I think it's great.
Yeah,
I do.
the fact that Dooku, and can't forget to mention that the late Sir Christopher Lee, who plays Dooku, of course, he's Christopher Lee. He's good in anything. My point being on Dooku is that because Dooku, whom was once a member of the Jedi Order, but then he lost faith in the Republic and in the Jedi, and he would make his way from the Republic to the Separatists, becoming one of the main heads of the Separatists, and also to include that, becoming the apprentice of the Sith. And
Didn't it?
so
Yeah, Eli, didn't they mention that Count Dooku was the apprentice to uh no, I'm sorry.
he I know what you're talking about.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was the master to Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yes, he was the master Qui-Gon Jinn. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, I don't know, is that like two people? That's right away two Jedi Knights that lost faith, and where one did die at the hands of Darth Maul, the other one, then decided to become evil and create his own separatist army. I think
Well, I
that's
mean,
really unique.
Qui-Gon didn't go in the same direction as Dooku. I mean, he of course stayed with the Republic and the Jedi, but he never made his way on the in the council. Because,
Right.
even Obi-Wan making that clear to him, if you would just follow the rules, you'd be on the council, and Qui-Gon,
Exactly.
and then
Exactly.
Qui-Gon saying, I will do what I must. So, because Qui-Gon knows what he's doing, and he's really the only one that can sense the fact that with Anakin that he is the chosen one.
Yes.
And I love how, we get more of, say, you know, the relationship of the master and apprentice of Dooku and Qui-Gon when Tales of the Jedi happened. Anybody that has seen Tales of the Jedi, in fact, because
Yeah, I enjoyed
apparently,
that.
in fact, in the last episode that centers on Dooku in Tales of the Jedi, Dooku was still present. He was still there at the Jedi Temple during the events, right smack down during the events of the Phantom Menace, and this is after Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan came back from Tatooine, and we then see that Dooku's the one that deleted all traces of Kamino, and with the discovery of the clone army. And there's a moment between Qui-Gon and Dooku, which would be the last time that they would see each other. And well, the fact that by that point, Dooku had yet to meet Obi-Wan, and the very first time that he would meet Obi-Wan was, of course, in the events of Attack of the Clones.
Right.
And when the Jedi are about to disembark for Qui-Gon's funeral to Naboo, yeah, because only Dooku does not attend, and the same goes for Yaddle, because Yaddle, who is the same species as Yoda, following Dooku, and well, discovering Dooku secretly meeting with Palpatine, and from there on, just yeah, and this is also where we see the unfortunate demise of Yaddle, where yeah, Dooku killed Yaddle, and not to mention that Dooku also going by the name of Tyrannus. So, but yeah,
There it
having
is. Right.
having Dooku be in Attack of the Clones, even though he's one of the main antagonists, we don't see him until like an hour into the film still. And with like Geonosius and with the droid army being built and more new battle droids that step in, and
There was
The battle droids.
yeah,
Yeah. There was I want to mention this real quick. There was a Star Wars fan film that I saw just recently. And in it, it's a very quick scene. Uh Anakin, who is now Darth Vader, goes back to Tatooine and he finds Watto and he kills Watto, cuts him down. Just you know, and it's only before he gets cut down that he realizes it's Annie underneath. That it's Anakin Skywalker underneath until he gets cut down. I think it's a really good fan film. If I can find it again, I'd love to get that for us guys. For a future Star Wars fan film review because it's really interesting. I mean, it's just basically um, Anakin as Vader covering all his loose ends, and the last one, which where Watto had control over his mother until his mother married Owen Lars and so on. It was Watto, the Toydarian, and for this premise that Vader walked into his shop and then kills him outright. Yeah, so yeah, I if I can find that again, we'll definitely take a look at that sometime. Yeah, definitely because
yep,
it's good. It's good. It tells resolves everything that all the bitterness after losing his mom. He says, "I still miss you, mom," because what happens is he kills Watto, and then his mother, right, comes out of the ethereal and says, "You're not a bad person, Annie." She says, "Remember what I told you? Don't look back when you left," and all this stuff. Yeah, if I can find it, I'll definitely find it for us guys. Yeah.
right. Okay, but and as I was saying about Attack of the Clones, because yeah, I mean, look, because the CG, because like people at that time saying that there was too much CG. Well, look, I mean, because that's what George had envisioned, and even when the prequels came, like certain things that he wanted to see happen, and when the prequels happened, and when technology really came and advanced at a certain point, then yeah, and even when like say again, this marked where yeah, George did Attack of the Clones with digital cameras, but also keep in mind, because I think people seem to realize this as of now, where they did in fact use practical models for Attack of the Clones.
They still did. I don't think that
Uh-huh.
most people, yeah, as one mentioned, I don't believe that most people realize this. But when George Lucas first digitalized and added the extra scenes from 4, 5, and 6, I don't think people realize this, but that's where he was able to use the brand new technology that he was able to foment,
Right.
uh, from Lucasfilm, and he came in effectively. Honestly, if you look at the three prequel 1, 2, and 3, if you look at all three prequels, including Attack of the Clones, you'll find that there was just the right amount of CGI and just the right amount of digital effects and visuals, but also there was the correct amount of practical effects. So if you want to be honest, all six films now, when you watch them digitally, or if you go into an IMAX theater, they all look the way that Lucas's vision wanted to be done, and they're all supposed to be the way that he envisioned that they were going to be filmed, exactly the same way, like all six of them. Now, for the other three, I can't speak for Abrams because I'm not sure, you know, what he wanted to accomplish, uh, digitally or visually or anything. But I know that in the first six films, including what Howard did with Solo and what the other director did with Rogue One, they show the right amount of visual, they show the right amount of CGI, they show the right amount of digital and practical effects, and they all work.
Yep.
And and that's what I love about Attack of Clones. Like I said, my rankings would be, if I took the middle films, I'd go actually, I'd go with The Empire Strikes Back because I still think, to me, that's the greatest, like,
Of
middle
course it
sequel of
does.
a film and the middle sequel of a series. Um, and then number two would be Attack of the Clones, and then the last one would be, the middle of the sequels, Last Jedi. Would be the last one. So yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
Yep. But to finish up on what I have to say about Attack of the Clones, because yeah, I mean, even like say more on Geonosius and the Geonosian fight, and when the clones arrive, and of course then comes the lightsaber duel, and then of course with Yoda and Dooku, and where we finally see Yoda in action, which yeah, I mean, because everybody got a really good kick out of, and yeah, and then of course at the very end of the film, the Clone War begins. Anakin and Padme secretly marry, and just yeah, overall, Attack of the Clones may yet not be one of the another best Star Wars film, but the fact that it's very important in the story of Star Wars and with the whole Clone War army and so on. But just yeah, overall, Attack of the Clones, in my opinion, I mean, because I enjoy it, I really do. So yeah.
I do too, and
Me too.
Jeffrey makes a good point. He said it was the time in Hollywood where anything became possible.
Hmm.
Audiences wanted tons of CGI, and the droid armies were in response to an anti-violence push in movies that was going on. Absolutely. Like I said, these three movies were made turn of the century because you had Phantom Menace, which came out in 1999. Then you had Attack of the Clones, which came out in 2002. And then you had the final Revenge of the Sith, which comes out in 2005. So up to 2005, the movies back then, and this also applied to Star Trek with Enterprise. Oh, there you are. Hey, Eli.
I accidentally pressed the wrong
This
button.
also
Sorry.
applied to Star Trek in some ways with their series Enterprise. You had the right amount of CGI. People wanted to see that. You had your digitals. People wanted to see that. But you also wanted to be able to incorporate visual and practical effects. And in some ways, they were able to do that, and it was very successful. So, Jeffrey, you make a very good point. It was the attitude of audiences that wanted to have the right amount of all of these effects done so that these movies would appear to be, you know, spectacular and epic and everything that was going on. I mean, come on, the fight on Mustafar, still one of the most effective, to me, when we get a chance to talk about Revenge of the Sith, I still think that fight on Mustafar between Anakin and and Obi-Wan is still one of the best fights ever made. The whole way it happened and the concept and everything, and the effects alone, I mean, are just fantastic. And them marching down but yeah, when we get to that point, but I don't know. Have we talked about that next one, Scott, or
Which one?
Revenge of the Sith? Did we already talk about that?
Not yet. I'll get to that in a bit.
Okay, awesome. All right.
Maybe since Eli's done, I guess I'll just go with my next one. My next one, I think I'd pick Rogue One.
Okay.
I enjoyed Rogue One with Andor coming out at this time. I think it helped me appreciate Rogue One a lot more. I like how it more focuses on the rebellion side of Star Wars and how it's all about the getting the Death Star plans. And I do like
Yeah.
the finale with the Battle of Scarif. That was probably one of my favorite battles of all Star Wars. I do like the Darth Vader scenes. That was probably the best Darth Vader scene.
Oh, the Darth Vader scenes were definitely that was insane. And you hear all these Wilhelm screams. I mean, yeah, Jeffrey said it was the perfect blend of old school movie making combined with the unlimited effects. I agree. And he said, I loved Enterprise. That's what Jeff said too. Yeah, me too,
Mm-hmm.
Jeff. I enjoyed that series. Um, yeah, so Scott, what more did you want to say about it? Go ahead
I
before
do
I.
like Jen Urso. I'd like Felicity. I think her name's Felicity Jones.
Felicity Jones, yes.
Yeah, I feel like she was a good protagonist, and I like how her speech about fighting
I,
against the Empire.
yeah, I like. There's two performances I enjoyed the most. I'll mention them right now. One was Mads Mikkelsen playing her dad, Galen Erso. I thought
Mm-hmm.
the man who created the plans to the Death Star originally, but then putting that little thing with the, with that 2-inch port, port there, which was gonna, oh yeah, you gotta love Cherwin. Yeah,
Yeah, I like
Cherwin
Sherwood,
in
the
way.
one with the force
Uh,
guy.
yes. Um, yeah, those actually my two. Okay, there's actually three favorite performances I have. Obviously, like I said, Mads Mikkelsen, Galen Erso. I liked Forrest Whitaker's one-legged guy
Saw Gerrera.
performance. Yes, that's it. And then I liked uh Donnie Yen. Donnie Yen to me is the epitome of what a true martial arts guy can be. And
I
Donnie
liked him in
Yen's
John
always
Wick
been
4.
yeah, and I loved him in that as a blind Jedi. I mean, he's always been underrated in a lot of his movies. I mean, even when he's the star of IP Man, and I don't know if you've seen IP Man movies he's done. I've seen most of them. But I mean, Donnie Yen is one of the best martial art actors. He can even act in films. So like I I really appreciate when he's in a film, especially he can now say that he's participated in Star Wars. Uh, and he's also been in Marvel, he's been in DC. Like he's done all of these great franchises, and that's because they always ask him back because he says it's always a pleasure to do them. And like I said, I really enjoyed him in
Mm-hmm.
Rogue One. I really did. I
Yeah,
thought
me
he did
too.
great in that.
I think I like Director Krennic too as a villain. It's
Yeah,
just like
oh Chronic, yeah.
all the characters die at the end. They all die heroes,
Well, Krennic. Okay, don't forget Krennic.
except Krennic. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's the
Krennic.
hero.
Then he come. Yeah, he came back in the sequels, didn't he?
Krennic,
The same
yeah,
guy
he's
that
in
played.
Andor.
Because I know the actor. Help me out here, guys.
Uh,
The
I can
actor
I can answer that for you because Krennic technically he made an appearance
Mendelsohn.
in
That's it.
Krennic
Yeah,
made an appearance in somewhere in the Bad Batch, and I
A cameo.
yeah, and I'm
yeah.
not I don't think I don't know he didn't appear in Rebels, but he would also as of now finally make an appearance in season 2 of Andor. So
Yeah.
Well, Ben, yeah, his name is Ben Mendelsohn, and he was also the main criminal in Ready Player One. So, I mean, yeah, I like Ben Mendelsohn. He's good. I loved him as Krennic. I thought he was great. And then where he got force choked by Vader, I'm like, oh yeah, come on,
Hmm.
boy, Vader's getting real pissed off about something.
When I finish Andor season 2, I'm definitely gonna rewatch Rogue One, and
Yeah,
because I'd
you
like to see.
definitely have to receive that for
We
sure.
basically see Cassian's journey from all the way back when he was a child, all the way to the end of Rogue One. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah. And yeah, Jeffrey said all the cast were chosen because they were all big stars from their respective countries. That's true. It's in the special features. They wanted a really diverse feel to the group, and Ben is also Talos, the Skrull in Marvel. Yes, he
Yeah.
is. Yes, he is. Yeah, Ben Mendelsohn is awesome. I like him as an actor. And as I said, I think that Donnie Yen, playing the blind Jedi guy, was very underrated. And and I mean, Donnie Yen to me is like Jet Li, or Jackie Chan. He has special moments that he picks out, and I think that's awesome. That he can pick out and stand out, and be there. And I don't think that a lot of films with Donnie Yen in it, I don't think they give him enough credit. I really don't think they do. But that's why I liked, yeah, that's why I like Rogue One a lot. I mean, I prefer Solo more over Rogue One for other reasons, but in the way of actors, I mean, you had a great cast in Rogue One, and I felt bad that a lot of yeah, I like Ben Donnie was great, absolutely. I to my in my honest opinion, I think that they wasted a lot of the story trying to build up, uh, you know, eventually that it was about the plans. And now, was that supposedly? Now that was like the second time we met Mon Mothma, right? Mon Mothma before she became like the leader of the known resistance. Um, but that was like her early origin, I guess. Seeing her for the first time. Uh, yeah, and of course Admiral Akbar. Well, he wasn't admiral yet. He was just kind of like one of the guys from one of his water worlds that was starting to build resistance also. And I thought that was cool though. Oh, Mon is in Rebels. Yeah, she is.
yeah,
Yeah, she's also in. I think she's in one of the Clone War films, isn't she? I think she is.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think
Well,
it's
I mean,
in one of
not
those.
not
Yeah,
no, not really. She makes a
not
silent
really.
she makes a silent appearance in say Revenge of the Sith. Actually,
I think it was the
Oh,
end of the
yes, she
lead.
does. Yes, she does. That's true. Yeah, a different actress. Okay.
no, it's the same
Oh,
actress.
okay.
The same
Yeah.
actress who first played Mon Mothma in Revenge of the Sith, who would come back as Mon Mothma.
Yes. A different. Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Uh, should I say more about Rogue One then, or do we think we said enough?
Was there anything you feel that you missed meant bringing up?
I do like Cassian in the movie and K2SO. I like K2SO.
Oh, yeah. The droid. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the best part.
And
He was.
moments. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. I think he was comic relief. that's that's pretty much it for me as far as that droid went. Yeah, he was funny, but that's what I
Mm,
thought. He was just more of a comic relief kind of thing, thrown in just to give like snide remarks. And well, they had to have. Here was the understanding I got from the movie. They needed a C3PO type character with snide remarks, intelligence, and all that. So they decided to create this droid, for Rogue One, and I think that makes a lot of sense.
yeah. So yeah, the Probably the most intense scene in the movie was the Death Star blowing up Scarif at the
Yep.
very end,
Oh
and
yeah, Scarif.
I thought
Yeah.
it was powerful. It was definitely a wild moment for sure. But overall, I think Rogue One was a good Star Wars movie, and I definitely look
It
forward
was
to.
a good. Yeah, it was a decent film. You know what I liked, like I said, besides the Darth Vader thing. Oh, and the fact that of course, Carrie Fisher had just recently passed, so they had the
Oh, at
princess
the
rights.
last.
Yeah, through motion capture or whatever, stand in for her, uh, which I thought was done as a nice homage. Um, but also the fact that Urso and the other guy are standing there on the side. It's like kind of like a beach setting. That's when Scarif was beamed and destroyed, and you see the thing that's coming upon them, and they're standing there. And there's nothing they can do. Yeah, and everybody dies in Rogue One. Great decision for a family type film like that. Yeah, I do agree with that. I agree with that, Jeff. Yeah. It had a closure. That was the whole thing. Solo, maybe not so much, but that's okay. I didn't mind that because it was more of an origin story for Solo himself
Yeah.
rather than other people. But the people that were in his life that influenced him was important, which I thought that's why it was slightly better. But yeah, as far as Rogue One is concerned, it did create a complete closure. It just leads right to 4, 5, and 6. So yeah, it's great. I love it. Yeah. I
Yes,
love it in its own way for that. Yeah.
I think
Hmm.
I think I think we wrapped up Rogue One pretty well.
Yeah, but until I get to Rogue One, so
Yeah. So, what's your next one, Eli?
okay.
Yeah.
So last one for me was yeah, Attack of the Clones. So
Right.
I think by this point we're coming up to the juicy stuff. So
Yes.
yeah. Hmm.
All right. So what's the next one we're coming up with?
Well, this is. I mean, this for me. This is toughy. This is a toughie because okay, the original trilogy. Then there's. Okay, yeah, I've got it. Well, oh yeah. Because how we're doing this ranking. Yeah. Okay, so all right, the next one for me will be Phantom Menace. So
No. Yeah.
now, personally, for me, look with this kind of ranking, this ranking we're doing. Yeah, I get what this is, but and where I place it, yeah, understandable. But for me personally, because I Phantom Menace is one of my top favorite Star Wars films, but I get the fact that even back then, because Phantom Menace was not. It was mixed received, and most notably because nobody liked Jar Jar. People couldn't stand Jake Lloyd as young Anakin and some of the dialogue, but at the same time there was a lot of good things that came from Phantom Menace. Some of the other characters, like the debut of Ewan McGregor as Kenobi and Liam Neeson as Qui Gon Jinn. The
Right.
fact that this is where it really began with the digital technology, CG mixed with practical effects, the
Right.
the whole thing. And look, because even in the as I brought this up earlier, the documentary Light and Magic, in season two, when they brought up, of course, when they brought up Phantom Menace, and when it came to bringing Jar Jar to life, well, the thing is that people, despite the fact not liking the character, they liked what was brought into Phantom Menace with a CG character on screen with live actors and so on. And yeah, I mean, because we've had say we it's like in the original trilogy we had an alien creature with live actors, which of course being Chewbacca, but to have a CG slash digital character act be on screen with live actors, like yeah, that was great. Um, and the same goes for Watto, and even for the battle droids. Um,
Right.
and the fact, because how much was put into Phantom Menace, and anybody that has seen that video diary documentary, The Making of Phantom Menace, which that's extraordinary, because yeah, you can really tell that those that were from the beginning not just George, but those at ILM, those at Lucasfilm, everyone, they were doing their very best. You can see that they were trying to do their very best to, you know, make a good Star Wars film after the original trilogy came to an end. And the fact that this was going to be the first Star Wars film in years. And, but sadly, again, when it first came out, wasn't that received. But in the later years, it's gotten more appreciation and love. Even Jar Jar has gotten more appreciation to this day. And, it's not
Yeah.
Ahmed Best's fault. It's nobody's
Oh no,
fault with
no.
what was brought to Jar Jar. I mean, like George was. I mean, of course, he was responsible for Jar Jar, but yeah, I mean, because you know, wanting to bring some comic relief to Jar Jar, sure, maybe Jar Jar kind of going over the top, but still, um, and also the fact because yeah, I mean, as Anchorman brought up earlier, like some highlights from Phantom Menace. Well, first off, as I brought up, like say some of the casting, but the ones that Anchorman brought up, like yeah, the pod race and the lightsaber duel, yeah, those are the two biggies. And the fact
Well,
that
and I also
we
think, yeah, go
well, I
ahead.
was just going to also say the fact that we see the early beginnings of, say, we see the Jedi Order, and we see, the origin of Anakin, and well, when he would meet Obi-Wan, when he was discovered, and when we would see R2 and 3PO when they first meet, and you know the early beginnings of like the Sith during the events of Phantom Menace, and yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, just overall, Phantom Menace back then wasn't the best Star Wars film, but I think as of now, along with the prequel trilogy, now it has come to this where the prequel trilogy has gotten more love and appreciation, and of course that goes for the one that started it all with the prequel trilogy, Phantom Menace. So yeah.
yeah, and I agree with you on a lot of those points, Eli. The one thing I wanted to mention was uh, one of actually the one thing I wanted to mention was the first introduction of Princess Amidala, being played by Natalie Portman,
Hmm.
and I don't know if you've seen I don't know if you guys have seen enough Natalie Portman films. Uh, I know I've seen my share. I mean, of them.
Oh yeah, I mean I've seen a
I
good
think,
majority of her films.
yeah, yeah. Don't you think that she kind of had a wooden performance to this? Like, considering it was the first of the three, so is it because she was trying to grow into the character of Padme, or that she was just there to, say her lines and then that was it? I feel honestly, I mean, I'm taking nothing away from Natalie Portman because she's a genius. She
Yeah, well,
graduated from an Ivy League school. I mean,
yeah, I
and
mean,
she does have,
I mean, she was like in her teens when she did this, but also at the same time, like the character of Padme in Padme's early days. Well, I mean, because her being queen and she had to act queenish. You know what I'm saying? Grand
oh,
royal and
of
such.
course,
So
yeah, right. But honestly, it's like until like now, you get a more appreciation of how young she was
hmm.
and what she had to do, to grow into the role. I think she did an okay job. I do. Maybe not a great
Hmm.
job, but I think that she had to do enough to put enough passion into it, so that she wouldn't be just considered as a wooden stiff, uh, you know, queen, throughout. And I understand when she's young, she's got a little more uh gumption, things of that nature. I guess that's what you would call it. Uh, but yeah, that's the one thing that it'll either bring me back completely or it will just kind of make me, feel bewildered. It's just her performance, just seeing over the course of those three prequel films, and how you want to hope that she matured, and maybe she did,
Yeah.
because she did V for Vendetta, and of course Thor and all those other films. Um, but you want to hope that she uh, matured a lot, and maybe that's what she was going through. Maybe that's, because you did say she's very young, and she was, when she started. So maybe she
Yeah.
was just going through that maturation process, maybe over those three films. I could see that. But did she succeed? I don't know. I think the jury's still out with me because I love the prequels. Don't get me wrong. I think they're all right. I think they're good. There's lots of great moments in them, and and they're not better than the original three. I got to say that though, but right up front. And the sequels, well, yeah, the sequels they'll have to grow on you, or you just don't like them. That's how the whole thing goes. Um, yeah, but like I said, with Phantom Menace, to see someone like that, to see an actress like that, who's trying to get her foot, in the door, who's trying to get her feet wet, and to see how she's trying to progress throughout. That's the thing that stood out to me, is to see how much she had to mature through the next two films. So this is just the beginning of that process for her. Yeah. So you could see that. You could feel that. But everything else was just fine. Yeah. Everything else you said was perfectly on point. Definitely.
Yep.
Definitely.
Well said.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we covered that, Scott.
Yep. On
Uh,
Phantom Menace.
should I go next then?
Yes,
Yeah, you
you're.
go next. Yeah, we did
You.
Phantom
I
Menace.
Yeah.
think
Yeah. You are
I
next.
think I'm at the top 5 for me.
All
With
right,
like,
go for it.
it's
Hmm.
like a next was like for Force. I think next one for me was Force Awakens. Like it felt magical going to this a new Star Wars movie for the first
But
time.
yeah, but let me ask you guys both first. Don't you think this is like a exact carbon copy of the original Star Wars movie when it came out?
I think it like JJ wanted to recapture the magic of like New Hope.
And I right, and I get that. I do understand. Like I said, I know he wanted to recapture the magic, but a lot of people berate him about it because they said, "Well, it's just a carbon copy of Star Wars. It's just the same exact plot." And I will admit, and I mean, I've seen Force Awakens a few times, so I will admit that there are similarities. But I'm telling you, all bets were off when Han Solo got killed. Now, if I recall correctly, in Star Wars, the only person of major importance that got killed was Big Starklighter. If I'm wrong, let me know immediately. But I think that was for him, Luke's buddy, was a big loss. And of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? His mentor, the guy that taught him, he gets killed by Darth Vader. So that's a big loss. But that's really the only two there. Now, when you're looking at, uh, this movie, and you're going like, Force Awakens, and you're going, there isn't anybody that stands out that really got killed. That seemed like it was, uh, yeah, right. He wanted it that way, so he didn't have to keep going back. I agree with you, Jeff. But then he came back for, uh, the Indiana Jones 5, Dial of Destiny. So what was that about? And then he's also done Thunderbolts, He's done that recent film. And he came back for Captain America Brave New World as Red Hulk. So what about that, he's got, Harrison Ford's got a different agenda, believe me. But no, but getting back to Force Awakens, at that point you didn't really see anybody pass away. Well, you knew, I mean, up until what happened with Han. But I mean, you knew, okay, when you went into the film, something was slightly different. Luke Skywalker was missing. So you were like, okay, so he's missing, he's somewhere. He's out of the picture. So there was one distinctive difference there. But then it kind of hung on that. And some of the, like I said, some of the Star Wars movie and some of the Force Awakens are similar, plot and everything. But then when it got to the point where Kylo Ren kills Han, everything changed. And then it wasn't the same kind of movie. And that's where I think people are misunderstanding it. They're thinking it's all the same, and I'm like, no, Jar Jar, excuse me, JJ. Sorry, I kept saying that. JJ Abrams changed the game and said, "Oh no, we're going to kill Han, and then we're going to see where that goes from there." And I was like, "Wow, yeah." And I mean, this was just before. Don't forget, this was the movie that was just before Carrie Fisher was, ill, and then she eventually died.
And
Because
well,
they,
she managed to be in the Last Jedi.
yeah, she did. She did manage that, but remember those scenes were shot beforehand, and
I know that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
yeah,
we got her one last time fully as Princess Leia in the second installment of the sequel trilogy,
yeah, we did, which was very cool.
and how it
Yeah,
was great to see that Last Jedi is in memory of Carrie Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
it is. It is
And
that.
yeah, yes,
That's
and I was
yeah,
just I'm just replying to because what Jeffrey said about I think Harrison Ford wanted it that way so he didn't have to. Well, I mean, yes, but I mean, he wanted that for Han in the first place, and he technically got his wish. So
Yeah, he did.
I wish that it could have been more. Not so much the fact that Kylo Ren, his son,
let me ask you the
decides
let
while I'm on the platform. I think it would have been more cool if both him and Chewbacca were in the Falcon, and the Falcon got into a battle and finally got defeated, and they get
right
destroyed. And the ship
now.
gets destroyed. I think that would
Now,
have been a more, yeah.
well, I mean, finish what you were saying. Then I was gonna say something.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, okay. I mean, I was gonna point this out because it just now it dawned on me because you know this goes for all of you, like Mikey and Anchorman, and if you're still there, Jeffrey, because I mean, look, like yeah, I mean, yeah, because Han Solo having been killed in Force Awakens, but just like with the Mandalorian stuff and with Luke, like, do we have a guaranteed shot that maybe we could see Han Solo make an appearance somewhere?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I feel like I heard something, and I think my dad as well heard this too, that maybe
Go ahead, Eli.
Dial of Destiny proved this. Well, I mean, I'm continuing with what I'm saying, because hey, Dial of Destiny proved so with de-aging Harrison. So I mean, I don't see why, because doing it with Indiana Jones, so I don't see why the same can't be done for Han. But the only, but the and yet, yeah, because unfortunately they didn't do this for Dial of Destiny, but they can for Star.
Yeah. Eli, I think you're going in and out there, my friend. Jeffrey said she was so Botoxed she could barely move her face when she spoke. It was sad for me. Yeah, it was sad for me too, there, Jeff. And by the way, Jeff, when I went to go see Star Wars for the first time, I was 11 years old. It was in the middle of summer. So you're only ahead of me by 2 years, buddy. You were 9 when you said you saw it, and I would have loved to have seen it if I was 9, but at least I got to see it when I was 11.
Uh,
You know,
I
that
like
was good
what
for
else I
me.
was gonna say about the Force Awakens.
Uh, yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about it, Scott?
I really enjoyed Kylo Ren. Like I even dressed up as him for Halloween. That was a lot of fun. And the cross.
Oh, I
Oh,
think we just lost Eli there for a minute.
he's having issues. Maybe he'll rejoin. But like,
Okay.
I really like the crossguard lightsaber. That always looked unique to me. But as for your question about the Force Awakens being a copy of New Hope, I mean, I think it has similarities, but I feel like all the Star Wars movies have some similarities in some way. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but to me, I feel like
Well,
it had a formula. But I don't know. Is it a copy? I don't know. I feel like I've heard this argument a lot. But
I know it's hard to describe. Like, well, I mean, the like I mentioned before, the first time that somebody saw the film, and then they mentioned that Han Solo dies in it, like just practically without any filter. Just tells everybody, ruins it for everybody else because they didn't want to know that, right? They didn't want to know until they saw the film. And the reaction that this guy got and the way that they all piled on this kid and almost killed him,
That's
because
terrible.
he said that. Yeah. And I was like, and it was in my local paper. I mean, I was at home, back in Arizona, and I always usually got the morning paper or whatever. And I was reading it from work, and I was like, whoa. Yeah. Oh, welcome back, Eli.
The connection went out for a moment.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, dude.
And
No,
what was the last
Scott.
thing you heard me say?
Well, we heard you talk about the de-aging they did,
Yeah.
and
So my
and
point. My point being is that if there's any chance that we
awesome.
could see Harrison Ford reprise the role of Han Solo, like the Mandalorian stuff and so on, then yeah, I mean, and maybe this time, unlike what was done in Dial of Destiny, where I mean, look, they did a fantastic job with the whole de-aging of Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, but the problem was nothing was done for his voice because yeah, that was Harrison's actual voice. So
Right, he could still talk in that. Sure.
yeah, yeah. So I would think that if they were to do so, like besides some good de aging for Han Solo, they can do like what they did with Luke, with the voice sounding young and such. And I was also saying before I got cut off, where there's no doubt that if this were to happen, like Harrison would be in good hands, being working alongside with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau in Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to mention too was in Force Awakens is the one thing. See, I may not be a big fan of J.J. Abrams for what he's done, or what supposedly people think he's done badly. Uh, you know,
Well, I mean,
obviously not
did you
just to
did
the
you like
Star Wars franchise. Well, I'm just saying, not just the Star
have you
Wars,
well
but
have you
the
liked and
franchise.
did you like anything else that J.J. Abrams has done besides Star Wars?
I okay. I did see a few episodes of Lost when he worked
Mm.
on Lost.
And he also worked
But
on
okay, that's okay.
and
Yeah, I thought that.
he also worked on A-List, the one with Jennifer Gardner.
Yes, yes, I know. He worked on
Yeah,
that as well.
yeah, and
And
even
I don't think that he's a bad person. I'm just saying I think that
what about the movies? What about the movies that he's directed?
movies that he's directed is fine. It's just
Well, I
that
mean, I'm like he did the third Mission Impossible film, he did the two Star Trek films, and he did Super 8. So,
well, now Super 8 is great because he got to work with Steven Spielberg. And
hmm
Super 8 is a great film. I love that film.
yep, that's Abrams. Yep, he directed that. So,
Yeah, that's right. But he got to work with one of his favorite directors, Spielberg, to do it.
yeah,
So
Spielberg. Yeah,
you know,
because Spielberg was producer on that. So,
yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I don't. I think. Oh, he seemed to own Captain America. I think Harrison is done. Oh, watch
I mean,
Alias.
what's wrong with that?
Watch Alias. Okay, yes, Alias with Jennifer Garner. I agree. Yes, because I like
Mhm.
that. Oh, he wrecks. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, Jeff. Just to quickly go off topic, just for a moment, to answer that your question. Yes, JJ didn't absolutely destroy the Star Trek universe. What
He
he did
didn't.
was he tweaked with it. He decided he wanted to go into an opposite direction than what the original Star Trek would have gone with. And
Yeah,
he
this is
decided to go into a Kelvin universe. And that
yeah.
was kind of what was bad for that.
This created this creating an alternate universe and basically a second universe in Star Trek. So
And that was kind of the death knell for that. I agree. As far as Star Wars, was there anybody really ever else available? And I don't think there was. I don't think there could have been anybody else that could have done this. These
actually,
three sequels
there was one or two. I don't mean to cut you off again, but I think there was one or two that were
on the
considered.
list,
Yeah,
right?
that were considered before JJ. There were a few others that were considered to direct Force Awakens. I know one of
Yeah,
them. I know one of them especially was Brad Bird, but he chose Tomorrowland.
to
Over
do
yeah,
right
Force
with George
Awakens.
Clooney, and
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yep.
So they didn't have much choice. And I don't blame and I don't blame Abrams for that. They didn't have much choice. They had to get somebody they trusted, and I thought they trusted him. So, and I don't think I don't think he did a bad job. I mean, you know, he did what he could. I mean, again, I think it's just in a way, uh, yeah, we already agreed on that, Jeff. Um,
Sadly, I hate to say this, but I disagree on that because he did not wreck it. He didn't. I'm just saying.
well, it's not really wreck. It's kind of like creating a whole different type of universe.
Well,
And then he used time travel as a
a lot
cameo
of people
for with
seem to really
Spock.
enjoy that.
Oh God! But he looked up. But okay. But I looked up to Leonard Nimoy. I always thought that him as Spock did a lot better job on uh, on his original Star Trek in the movies because he's a Vulcan that's trying to embrace his human side. I think that's a lot more compelling than what Shatner was trying to pull off as Kirk. Um, I totally agree, and I don't have an issue with that. I honestly, Jeff, yeah, I don't have an issue that they brought back Leonard Nimoy for at least the first two films. I think that was fine. They had to bring him back. Um, so yeah, I don't have an issue with that. But getting back to Force Awakens, what it came down to me was the one thing that actually still means a lot to me is he went when he started to do these sequels. Remember, he had to get a hold of Harrison, he had to get a hold of Mark, and he had to get a hold of Carrie. And Mark and Carrie were physical wrecks. They looked terrible. But Harrison Ford was in the best shape of his life. And uh, and Abrams was saying like, um, Harrison, just keep doing what you're doing. You look great. We're gonna have you in the next film. Then he goes over to Mark and Carrie says, if I need you to do a workout regimen for me, for a certain amount of time. So what he did is he put both Carrie and Mark through a 6 month long. This was even before pre-production, for any of that started, and he put both of those actors through a 6 month long exercise regimen to like look great, to look good and everything else. And even before they were going to, make Carrie Fisher, what did Jeff say, like Botoxed or something later on in the eighth one or something. So like, I said, well, that's admirable. I mean, if a director like that really does care about your physical appearance and wants you to look your absolute best, even when you're coming back. Yeah, Mark Hamill looks like the Big Lebowski at the end. Well, come on, he's an ancient Jedi master. It is Luke Skywalker after all, so
Yeah.
he's gotta have that extra haggly hair and stuff that Jeff did, or that what's his name, Jeff Daniels, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
in the Big Lebowski. Yeah, look that way.
Jeff,
So
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no,
No. Jeff, sorry. It's Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges. Okay, I'm sorry. I get him and Daniels mixed up. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jeff Bridges. So yeah, I don't have an issue with that, Jeff. Speaking of a Jeff, no, yeah, he was the hot director at the time, so he got the job. Yeah, that's Abrams. I mean, he was pretty much the only one out of like say maybe a small group of three or four that was available at the time, and so can't blame him for that. He did what he could. So
Is that it for the Force Awakens discussion, though?
I think so, Scott. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's who's next?
Eli?
Eli? Okay, go ahead, Eli.
Okay. Well, all right. So let me see, oh boy, because yeah, yet again, we're getting up to the juicy stuff. So,
Good stuff.
well, yeah, I'd want to say probably, um, yeah. I guess this sounds about right. I think so. Yeah, Revenge of the Sith. So Revenge of the Sith, because yeah, the third and final installment of the prequel trilogy. Well, I mean, yeah, like at that time it seemed like yeah, Revenge of the Sith gotten, good positive, reception, unlike what how episode 1 and 2 were received at that time. And yeah, cuz
Yeah,
this is what everybody had been waiting for, and we finally got it, and we finally did, where
yeah,
this is where we would finally see how everything came down, everything fell from the Jedi Order, and when the
yeah.
the Empire was born, and of course when Darth Vader was born as well. And with the
I
addition of some new characters and new locations, planets we haven't seen. Once
yeah,
again, great visuals and CG and more and some more practical effects. Seeing the Wookiees in this, and most notably Chewbacca, the debut of General Grievous, and yeah, where we see Order 66, and some great acting from them, and even like Hayden Christensen at his finest, and of course when Anakin blindly turns to the dark side, and of course, the iconic lightsaber duel on Mustafar between Obi-Wan and Anakin, up to when, yeah, he is burned. He has both legs and one of his arms cut off, and yeah, burned to a crisp. And when he becomes Darth Vader, just yeah, it's extraordinary. It really is.
it really is. I I would say of the prequels, definitely I would say well of course I only would say if I had to rate the three of them, I'd say probably Attack of the Clones barely by a little bit would be my first choice. Second would be the third one. And then of course, Phantom Menace would be my last one. Uh but here's the one thing that still bothers me um about Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith is definitely classified, and I agreed high wholeheartedly. It is the darkest of the first six movies before we get into the sequels, and even darker than the two we talked about, Solo and Rogue One. Uh, because it comes down to the younglings, and now I agree you don't get to see the younglings actually physically killed in the film, if I'm correct. You see, you do see Anakin's lightsaber light up, and one of the kids is scared because they heard a lot of stuff going on outside, and Anakin is standing there right in front of all of them, and then he brandishes his lightsaber and shows it, but then you don't see any of the kids killed off, you know, right there.
Yeah,
But then they go into the security tapes, and now here's what I heard, a rumor. I don't know if it's true or not. The rumor is they're going to add a few deleted scenes to some of the prequels. And one of those deleted scenes was supposed to be what was on the video was on the actual tape of where Anakin was in the younglings room and wiped them out. And they say that they're going to put that in as an additional scene, when they remaster all the movies and whatever. And they just did a remaster of that movie, or supposedly the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith just came out. Somebody said they saw it, and I wonder if they put that scene back in. I wonder if they did it from the point where he brandishes his lightsaber at the first point, or did they do it during uh, the sequel or the sequel part? Excuse me, where Yoda and Obi-Wan are both looking at the security tapes. Did he do it there? And that's what they're staring at. Yeah, I don't know. I wish I could have gone to see that Revenge of the Sith 20th anniversary edition. That would have been good.
yeah,
Give me a second.
Uh, I think I the next one for me was definitely Revenge of the Sith. We're having our own Revenge of the Sith section now, but I love
Well, there
it.
we go.
I saw it in theaters just last week, and it
Hmm.
was awesome to see in theaters. Like I really love the darkness of it. Like it's definitely the deepest of the prequels. I love the. It has some of the best lightsaber fights with Anakin, Obi Wan versus Grievous. Even the opening was amazing on Coruscant.
Yep.
There's just so
Yes.
much to love for Revenge of the Sith. Order 66 was definitely the darkest scene for sure.
Yeah, the battles that raged above Coruscant. Like I said, when you watch the early stages uh, from the Tartakovsky Clone Wars, and you watch the early sequences of that going on, fighting over the skies, of Coruscant, and then of course leading right to the live action, fighting and all that stuff. It's perfect. I mean, it's just and you see, Obi Wan's with, he's got with R2D2, as his co-pilot in the X-wing, he's got R4, and then Anakin, of course, gets to have R2D2, fly alongside. Why not? I mean, he's the
Yeah.
smartest droid in the room. Uh,
Yeah.
but but like I said, I agree with you guys. Every fight sequence was fantastically choreographed, especially the Anakin and Obi-Wan fight. I mean, over Mustafar. It's absolutely stellar. Um, and I think to a small extent, when Anakin, well, he hasn't become uh, Darth Vader yet, but when he, before he fights Obi, remember he goes in and he cuts down all the Trade Federation people, and they're calling him by his new name, Darth Vader, and of course he takes everybody out. I mean, it's just that was a good closure for me because of all the troubles that the Trade Federation did trying to kill, Amidala, Padme, and all that stuff. So he's clearing up all the loose ends, right? He's taking care of everything, and that's why I said if I can find this fan film, he takes care of Watto, and that completes it. That just he kills the Toydarian. That's it. Um, but I yeah, I enjoyed it. Like I said, my only issue is from the third one is the fact with the younglings. I mean, I'm glad in a way that they didn't. Yeah, he's settling all the family business. That's completely true, Jeff. Um, like I said, I'm glad I didn't see him attack the younglings, even though that's what he did, and you're certain of it when they go through the security tapes. But I wish that maybe one or two of those younglings could have survived, and maybe,
Well,
just maybe,
some of the younglings technically did survive. Like I know Anchorman knows this, where and I do, of course, where in the Clone Wars series there was this one youngling which was a Wookiee youngling, and in the Bad Batch, he was one of those younglings that survived. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's obvious that not just that Wookiee youngling, but a couple of other younglings, as well as older Jedi's, they made their way and survived through Order 66 and on Coruscant. So,
yes. And then they
Yeah.
made sure they destroyed the rest of the tapes so that nobody would know where the remaining Jedi were. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. But we the two of us or the three of us, we saw that. Were you there, Eli? I think you were. We saw that one Kenobi Star Wars fan film,
Yes. Yeah.
and
Yeah, I was there.
yeah, awesome, yeah. And I thought that was perfect. I think that fan film should be canon because they're
Mm.
actually, why are the Imperials there if they're not looking for Skywalker initially? And why wouldn't, I'm sorry.
Now go ahead. I wasn't saying
No,
anything.
no, no. I was like I said, I just completely my thought. I was trying to. Yeah, was the fact that you know somebody. must have found out that the tapes were compromised, of what had information there. And somebody must have been able to determine, maybe it was even a foreshadowing of Darth, well, now Darth Vader, not anymore Anakin, but maybe he had thought that his son was brought there, and maybe that's why he had the Imperials visit the planet, where he's only like 5 years old, and everything. Um, but then to have uh, Obi-Wan step in and kill them all except for one last guy, where he says you're gonna forget, whatever. So I mean, I like that, and like I said, that should have been canon. It should be. It should be a part of the whole scheme of the Star Wars universe, in my estimation.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah. So, oops, what happened?
What?
Oh, we just lost Scott, I think.
Uh-oh. Well, hopefully it'll
Oh,
come
there he
back.
is.
Okay.
Welcome back, Scott.
Sorry.
Technical difficulty?
Yeah,
Accidentally clicked off.
yeah.
Okay.
But I think we've talked about Revenge of the Sith. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I think it's the best prequels. It's definitely my favorite, one of my favorite Star Wars movies of all time.
Oh, I would say it's my favorite of the prequels.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I
That's in
agree.
top. It's in my top favorite Star Wars films, definitely.
I think
Yeah,
the
I would say
next
so.
three are for me. It's too obvious.
Yeah,
But what's your next pick, Eli?
yeah.
Well, I thought you did Revenge of the Sith already. Like we were in the same.
Yeah,
Like
I'm in the same boat. Like I love it.
okay, gotcha. Right. Well, okay. Well, I want to say probably yeah. I'd probably yeah. Why not? So next is for me. Next is Rogue One. So yeah, Rogue One, which became like aside from the Clone Wars movie, this one in particularly, which being live action, marked as the first live action spin-off, and amazingly, like it turned out to be really good. And that especially goes for one of the main heads of ILM, John Knoll, who pitched this film, and it's thanks to John Knoll that we have Rogue One, especially since Rogue One dives into like this idea where in the story, because how the Death Star plans were recovered, but it's not just that. With its story, and it takes place before the events of A New Hope, and these group of characters that come together, and very soon halfway and like up to the third act they would come together and would like last minute thing like create Rogue One, their team name and such. And these batch of characters from Jin to Andor, K2SO, yeah, they were extraordinary characters. And the main antagonist, which being Director Krennic, of course, he was fantastic. The resurrection of Peter Cushing as Grand Moff Tarkin was excellent, and even a very quick, brief appearance of Princess Leia at the very end of the film, and
Yes.
With Darth Vader's appearance, you have James Earl Jones voicing Vader once again, and
Yes.
when the Death Star is in complete, construction and such, and like one of the like first two planets they destroy. Like, yeah, I mean the Death Star not having enough firepower to obliterate a planet quite yet. It isn't until say when in A New Hope they obliterate literally Alderaan, and of course, speaking of which, because yeah, having say a familiar face come back. I mean, yeah, one of them, of course, which of course being Bail Organa, and having Mon Mothma having a prominent role in this, and some use of archive footage, like okay, mainly like say Red Leader and Gold Leader, like they reused they used unused footage of those two from A New Hope, and even the two actors who played Red Leader and Gold Leader, they were still alive, and as I recall, yeah, because and even especially who played Gold Leader came back for some new recorded dialogue for Gold
Right.
Leader and Red Leader, and scenes like amazing CG visuals for Rogue One were extraordinary, and Skatamir was excellent too. The battle there, and even
Did
like
they bring back? Did they bring back? You were mentioning that about the red leader, gold leader. Wedge Antilles was not a part of that yet, was he?
he was, but we just I guess like he just we just I guess he just wasn't present. I want to say when they went to Skatamir. I'm guessing.
I guess, yeah.
Maybe he was, but we just didn't see him on screen.
Well, I mean, when they had the battle over Scarif, right? And I mean, they were fighting the Imperials and whatever. And I don't know if
It's kind of like it's kind of like say we didn't see Hera Syndulla appear on screen, but her name was mentioned, and we do see the ghost ship up here as well as Chopper. But yeah, the same goes for Hera, where yeah we don't we. It's obvious that Hera and Wedge, both of them were present, and when they went to Skatamir, but we just we never saw them on screen. So
right, right.
yeah, and also the chemistry and character build up with these characters also Saw Gerrera making his live action debut. And, to keep in mind, because Saw Gerrera, we were first introduced to him in season 5 of the Clone Wars. And to bring Saw Gerrera back, and whom plays Saw Gerrera, great choice, of course, and
Forrest
his.
Whitaker. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And his prominent role
yeah.
in Rogue One is excellent, but sadly when he gets killed, just yeah. But thankfully,
Right.
we would get more of Saw Gerrera in both live action and animation. But
So
also
that's good.
like say the fight sequences, the action was extraordinary, but also the fact that when people thought that maybe we would see another Rogue One film, no, because even the director made it very clear that this was the only one we're getting, and well that explains it because when you have all the characters sadly die, but they made a heroic sacrifice, and but to top it off, but to finish off the film, well, because when Vader arrives and yeah, trying to get the Death Star plans back, and yeah, when he takes down some of those rebel troops, and just yeah, that ending was awesome without a doubt, and of course that leading directly into A New Hope. So, but just
Into a new
overall,
hope, right?
yeah,
Because
just overall, Rogue One, it's an
yeah,
excellent Star Wars film. This being a spin-off, like what more has to be said?
yeah. I think that it's I do agree that Rogue One is a great filler uh between obviously the events of three. Uh, so after everything has calmed down and they've had the Order 66 is still instituted, it's still in place, and they get to and then they get to all the you know the things with the Ursos and everything else, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where they really feel that's when we should begin the rebellion, right? Is
Yeah,
to get to somehow get a hold of the plans. They said that many Bothans died. uh
I know. Yeah,
yeah, well, there wasn't just Bothans, there was obviously there was a lot of rebel troops that were killed by
yeah.
Vader just to try to get to them. I
Rogue,
still
yeah,
think
Rogue One. In Rogue One, yeah, they managed to steal the Death Star plans to the first Death Star, and somehow, up to say the
yeah,
events of Return of the Jedi, Bothans managed to steal some evidence that they needed for the
right
second Death Star. So
for the
yeah,
second Death Star. Yeah, I agree. And what's so good about it too is that uh, before the Death Star, the first Death Star was completed, Galen Erso, played by wonderfully by Mads Mikkelsen, by the way.
yep.
And I've always liked him. Mads is a great guy.
Yeah, both well,
Uh,
both him and his brother, they're excellent actors.
oh, sure,
Yeah,
definitely, sure.
and the fact that
Uh,
his brother Lars Mikkelsen would go on to play another prominent villain in Star Wars, which of course being Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Grand Old Throne.
Yep,
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah, great role for him.
yep.
Uh, yeah, so Mads Mikkelsen. But the fact that Galen Erso had a conscience and which was really awesome for me, and the fact that he had already determined that he was going to put a a fault in the construction of it, that he was going to have that little port there, to where torpedoes could reach it, even though it's such a small port there.
Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant. I thought he kept that so secretive, and nobody really knew. And then when they finally got the plans, to the rebels, and the rebels could figure it out, then they, somehow it had to be Luke. It had to be Luke, right? Skywalker had to be the one to destroy that monstrous creation, And
Of
it only
course.
made sense. Yeah. So yeah, so that's what I like. Yeah, Rogue One I like about that for sure.
Hmm.
So what was
Okay,
the
so
next one we were going to talk about, Scott?
yeah, so I'm finished. Yeah, so I did my. I've talked about Rogue One. So what's next for you,
For
Anchorman?
number three, for me is like, I think it's Return. We're finally at the original trilogy. For me,
Yeah.
it's Return of the Jedi. I really enjoy Return of the Jedi. It's the great finale to all of the original trilogy. I do like Luke Skywalker's new green lightsaber. It looked perfect. Even
Yeah.
his new robes, the black robes, and the scene with Luke versus Vader was perfect in my opinion. The Battle of Endor was a lot of fun. It was goofy, fun. Just seeing all the stormtroopers get taken down by the Ewoks was hilarious.
And did you feel that one moment, Scott? That one was that his mother that one guy lost, uh, that got killed in the battle, and you felt that genuine affection, for the loss of the fellow Ewok that got killed, the female
Yeah, it
one.
was definitely sad. Like the Ewok, it was.
I felt that emotion. I really did.
Yeah,
That still is a hard scene for me to watch in Return of the Jedi.
yeah,
Is the fact that um, you know it made the Ewoks more personal. Like, yeah, you could call them funny little teddy bears running around on two legs, and
Yeah.
you know and
In
and
fact,
and you
yeah,
could just
George,
make
like
mock.
even like George, when at one point the Ewoks were developed, and
Yeah.
they weren't cute looking at first, but George insisted to Joe Johnson, who designed the look for Ewoks, to make them more cute. So
Right. And of course, you gotta love the performance of Warwick Davis as an Ewok.
yep.
you can't you can't forego that. I mean, you know, Warwick Davis to me is one of the greatest short person actors we've ever seen,
Oh yeah.
um, in anything he's ever done. And I can't fault him at all for being the head of the Ewoks, or more prominent display, uh, for being in the one of the Ewoks there in the movie. Because he really does lead the fight. I mean, and he's really good at it. And how he protects, you know, Princess Leia,
Yeah.
and everything. So yeah, I let one of the scenes I really love, and of course, is where he hits the foot of the stormtrooper. He goes, "Hey," he goes, "Phoom," and then he just takes them out. I love that. That to me is great. Yeah, and I agree with Scott. Seeing the Ewoks take them out, and especially when they use two logs to crush one of the at walkers. Yeah, those are great battle scenes. I love them.
Hmm.
Yeah. And again, to get back in the door, they say we need. Leia says we need R2. Of course, R2's getting shot at. C3O C3PO is getting shot at. I mean, the stormtroopers are definitely not good shooters, right, Eli? They suck. I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
come on.
it's never crossed my mind, even when watching the Star Wars
Yeah,
films, but you know.
yeah. But they never hit them once, except for the part where he's trying to jack the door, and then he gets shot
Uh,
one time. Yeah, just for effect. just to get a kick out of it.
Yep.
I also like. I don't know. Did you guys like Boba Fett in the movie, even though he gets thrown in the Sarlacc pit?
Oh, of course. Yeah, for me. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for me, sure.
I mean, he did come back in Mando season 2 and the Book of Boba Fett.
And when
You
we
know,
and when in Book of Boba Fett we get the backstory of how he survived the Sarlacc pit, and from there on.
Yeah,
they took that from the was it Timothy Zahn that wrote about that in the Tales of the Bounty Hunters?
it might have.
Yeah. Well, I know it's a great story called Tales of the Bounty Hunters. I believe it was written by either Zahn or by Kevin J. Anderson. But what it talks about is after Boba Fett got sucked up by the Sarlacc, he still had one of these detonator bombs strapped to his his waist. So when he got taken in, he immediately like set off that bomb inside the Sarlacc, blew the Sarlacc to bits, but it almost killed him. And they found him. This group found him there on the Tatooine desert, barely clothed. He was like almost half naked and dying, and of course the Sarlacc was all in pieces. So yeah, so that was in that book, and I really enjoyed that. I said that should be canon. They should make something of that. So they did apparently. They had him survive. So yeah.
So yeah, overall, Return of the Jedi was a fantastic end to the Skywalker saga for the time being.
It brought back some
Does Eli
closure.
want to go next for his third Star Wars movie?
Yeah, because coincidentally, mine is the same as yours. Mine is Return of the Jedi.
All right.
Yeah, so you're right, because Return of the Jedi is the grand finale of the original trilogy, and something that at that time people were waiting to see, because how it ends, and well, the fact that by the last installment before Jedi, because yeah, it was revealed that Vader was Luke's father, and what was to go down in the third and final installment in the trilogy. And yeah, because by Return of the Jedi, things got more big, more intense. And yeah, because more great visuals, bigger than ever, and more creatures added, from, say, those in Jabba's palace to the Ewoks. And, and just, yeah, it was amazing. And with more new characters added, and even, like, say, when we finally see Jabba the Hutt, after he was, at that time when the original trilogy came out, Jabba was only mentioned and we never saw him on screen. But, I mean, that wasn't until when the special edition happened, they finally included Jabba in The New Hope. But at that time, this was the debut of Jabba. So, and, like, even still to this day, like, the practical effect of Jabba being a practical puppet is still amazing. And, of course, with all the creatures that were in Return of the Jedi, the amazing practical effects of the modeled ships, and the Rancor pit and the walkers, and the key locations and how they filmed some specific stuff, like the speeder bike chase, the chemistry, more chemistry with the characters, the character driven, and even with the whole father and son with Vader and Luke. And when we finally see Emperor Palpatine, and in Return of the Jedi, this marked the debut of Ian McDiarmid as Palpatine.
That's
Um,
Palpatine. Yes.
Yes, and seeing the second Death Star, and even, like, seeing Lando Calrissian now with them and being a part of the rebellion, and yeah, just seeing the Battle of Endor from up in space and in on the planet, and of course on the second Death Star, the lightsaber duel, Palpatine trying to lure Luke into the dark side, and with Luke trying to bring his father back, bring Anakin back, and Vader being no more, and just great moments here and there, and great action. The chemistry, just, and with John Williams' music and score, just, yeah, everything that was put in Return of the Jedi was really great. And yeah, because when, say, Luke finally redeems Vader, and the balance is restored, and yeah, just what more has to be said? Yeah, Return of the Jedi is excellent, and for that being the finale of the original trilogy.
Yes, well said.
Yeah, and for what the especially you have to love the rescue scenes. With Luke uh going out, to go and save Han, from Jabba's palace and from everything. And when we do get to Star Wars, I can understand now why that Lucas had an idea to add in that additional scene, where Han steps on Jabba's tail by mistake in the hangar there at Mos Eisley. I can understand now why Jabba the Hutt wanted him so badly, to be a mantelpiece, in carbonite. I get that now. I totally get that. So, uh, yeah, overall, great story. Uh, in my original trilogy, Empire Strikes Back has always been my first. Uh, then uh, Return of the Jedi, and then of course the original Star Wars. So yeah, I like all three, and I like them equally. It's just that there's more of a story from number two, and then and then over the years I said, yeah, Star Wars is fantastic, but three did close everything perfectly, and I think that's where they should have left the franchise. I would have left it right there. I wouldn't have done any more than that. So the rebuilding was always kind of lame, but it never stopped me from loving it. Yeah, yeah, no, that's fine. Over Endor, yeah. Well, they always said they were going to build a second one
Yeah.
after what the first one did to Alderaan, and before that Scarif. So yeah, of course, that was always in the plans.
Yeah. So is that it for Return of the Jedi? It was
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it
For
is.
number
Yeah,
two for me is New Hope.
Hmm.
It is it is what got me into Star Wars. It's the reason why I love Star Wars to this very day. It is like the perfect story for me for the hero's journey of Luke Skywalker wanting to escape his farm life and he becomes the hero of the rebellion. And there's a lot of I love Ben Kenobi, Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan is awesome. But I don't know what else is. I do love Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia. Harrison Ford as Han Solo. It's just there's so much to love for New Hope, especially for everything that they did. What George Lucas could do with Star Wars. That he had something he wanted to do, and it finally got crafted together.
Yep.
and I think that both Eli and myself would agree when we
Yeah,
uh, when we first, and I agree with you too, Scott. Um, when we first saw Star Wars, like Jeff said, he was 9 years old when he saw it the first time in a movie theater. I got to see it on a grand scale when I was 11, and I was in Phoenix, Arizona. I was with my friend Larry at the time. You guys know Larry. We were waiting out in the hot sun to go see the very first premiere of Star Wars at our theater, which was called the Cine Capri. Cine Capri had these big, huge red curtains with gold trim, and everything was there. So it reminded you that it was an epic. It was going to be an epic film, and it reminded you of that. And I was so excited. And when I'm watching all the scenes and everything, I was like, in that first month, I saw Star Wars 4 more times after that. So I saw it like 5 times. I've seen it more times than that since. But the fact was, it is a movie, to me, it's a movie that redefined what true science fiction films can be. Like your 2001 A Space Odyssey, an epic film. That was before that. And then you had like the, you had that one that was, well, you had Jaws. You had Jaws before that. Jaws, epic, down home, you know, great white shark, your worst fears realized, all of that. And you had those two great movies. You had Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that was fantastic, with first contact with aliens, all of that stuff. But when you had Star Wars, Star Wars could bring you to another place in the galaxy. Something that I don't. I think that Battlestar Galactica, if you want to take a TV series, Battlestar Galactica tried but failed. Um,
Yeah.
eventually, and you had uh some other space series. I mean, obviously Star Trek could give you an idea of us going out into space, fighting aliens, doing all this other stuff. But Star Wars gave you a chance to see a struggle that was going on in another part of the universe. And of course, the words, say it all. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and it just says it to you, and it speaks to you, right? And you're like, that. That to me is the epitome of the moment. And to see it all scrolled up the way it did, and people could read that and they could go, "Ooh, this is cool." And then, of course, the thing that starts you out, uh, of course, is the 10 to 4 being followed by a destroyer shooting at you over Tatooine, and you're like, wow, yeah. So, and of course, the John Williams score, always great, yeah.
Yep.
So,
So, yeah, New Hope. It's probably
yeah,
my favorite movie of all time.
it's in my top three of
Probably top two for
sci-fi
me.
movies of all. Well, it's in my top three. It is. Uh, to be fair, as I said, I just mentioned my top one, which is 2001: A Space Odyssey, and number two
Yeah.
would be Star Wars. Uh, and number three, uh, let's see, what was number three? Uh, I, I don't remember now. All I know is, you know, um, those were my number one and two. They always have been because they redefined what science fiction was. At its point in time. Um,
Yep.
oh, I know what number three was for me. Terminator 2,
Ah.
Judgment Day. Yeah, that's my third top movie of all time.
uh, so like Eli, I assume New Hope would be number two for you.
Yes, just so happens to be number two, and I think we both know what number one is. So for me, number two, of course, being A New Hope. So what I have to say about New Hope, because yeah, this is where it all began in 1977. Well, not to mention, because yeah, around 1975 and 1976, Lucas began development for something people were not expecting to see and to be amazed by, because you know, keep in mind, because at that time, people didn't care and they didn't know what to make of this. Even like some of the crew didn't know what to make of it either. But until it came out, that's when, yeah, people started to realize and understand when watching it on screen and how bedazzled they were by watching it. Yeah, Lucas being inspired by, say, the swashbuckling and those old serials like Flash Gordon, and when developing Star Wars, and even after, well, I mean, during when he was doing American Graffiti, because yeah, he was developing Star Wars and you know, trying to get it right, and because like mythology and stuff like that, and yeah, because the plot being simple, because you have the damsel, you have the young uh, heroic, adventurous guy, and well, you have the buckling, the smuggler, and a wise man who steps in, and yeah, because whom and what they go up against, and yeah, because just there was nothing like Star Wars, and it was definitely one of those movies where, yeah, it was a big game changer in the film industry. Everything from beginning to
Oh,
end. Its plot
oh,
line,
yeah.
its story, its characters, the character driven, the amazing visual effects, and where, yeah, Star Wars practically gave birth to Industrial Light and Magic, and Star Wars had effects unlike anything uh, that had been done, and yeah, just
Don't
like
don't
just
yeah. Don't
overall,
forget also.
just
Yeah.
overall, to finish up what I have to say about New Hope,
Well,
there was never anything like this before, and yeah, I mean, this would be the beginning, and yeah, because Star Wars, which that's what it was originally just called, Star Wars, but later on it would be referred to as Episode 4 New Hope. It's one of the top amazing movies in film history, and of course one of the top best Star Wars films. But yeah, Episode 4 New Hope, it's perfect in every way.
It really is. And Jeff says that that's pretty much where all film merchandising began as well. Correct. And also, Jeffrey, that there was nothing like this movie in the late 70s for sure. This is where Star Wars just stood out. Like, it, for me, it was like discovering something brand new. Like, I was used to all the previous special effects. Well, like I said, from 2001, I was used to that up to that point. So I didn't think there would be any other movie with, other than Kubrick's, masterpiece that would match it. And then you had Star Wars. And I was like, the effects were great for the time. Yeah, they were on a limited budget, so they couldn't do a whole lot. But they didn't really need to because the story, which was like you said, it was Eli. It was based on serials of the early 40s, 50s, Flash Gordon, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That Spielberg himself and Lucas both grew up with as kids because they knew each other at the same film school and everything. They grew up with all that. I mean, let's be honest. If you watch an old serial of Flash Gordon now, and you'd be like amazed, you'd be like, "Ooh, ah," there'd be some coolness to that. But then, 3 years after Star Wars, of course, was in 1980 when they had the Flash Gordon movie that came out. You thought that was cool. I still think it's cool. It's in my top 10 easily. And plus, I met the actor Sam Jones, so very cool. But I mean, it was just the whole landscape. At that time, people weren't sure uh, what would be the next great movie. I mean, some people knew there were a few epics, a few classics that had come out around that time, but they weren't sure what would be like the epitome of be like the real creation of perfect sound, perfect visuals, perfect miniatures, effects and everything. And then Star Wars. Oh, and the other thing you forgot to mention, Eli, was Skywalker sound. Do you notice that all the movies now use Skywalker sound? That was created from this movie. Was both that and
Yep.
ILM. So I mean, yeah, great stuff. It was the
Oh,
perfect.
oh
It
yeah.
is to me. It's considered the perfect movie. So yeah.
Yes. So like, should we all just have the discussion of Empire Strikes Back since that is like number one for us all?
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
Might as
So I
well.
guess
Yeah.
we'll all discuss it.
Yep.
Well, we can. I can. Okay. Well, let me. I can tell you mine real quick, and then I'll let you guys finish it. Empire
Besides,
Strikes
yeah.
Back.
Besides, this stream's been going on now for 3 hours.
Yeah,
Oh
of
my god,
course.
yeah, that's 3 hours. Well, you know us guys. When we were talking about Dial Destiny, we went over three. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Just like
we had a
last
lot to
time.
talk about on that one. I'll just say this real quickly. Empire Strikes Back for me is one of the few times that a sequel actually outshined the first one. You don't see that very often anymore in movies. It's unanimous. Yeah, exactly. No, that was one of the very few times that you saw a sequel, and the sequel was just as awesome or even better than the original. And obviously, Empire Strikes Back is right in my top 10 too. So I was like, I think that for me, the scene with Luke and Darth Vader on top of the scaffolding there, where he reveals that he's his father, and he's no, that's impossible. Search your feelings, you know it to be true. Yeah, that is one of the greatest scenes in film history. Between that interaction between the two of them, and he cuts his arm off. Well, after he just cut his arm off, so yeah,
Yep.
that that completes it for me. You had what you thought you had the perfect movie, and it was just outdone by the second one. So yeah, that describes it for me. But you guys go ahead.
Okay. I mean,
I'll go.
you can go first, Anchorman, by all means.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Empire Strikes Back is probably my favorite movie of all time. It is like a perfect sequel to New Hope. It is more intense, a lot more going on. There's different worlds they explore, like Hoth, Bespin, Dagobah. Like there's so much to love, and like the
Yeah.
mentorship of Yoda, the Luke Skywalker was great. Luke Skywalker having to fight his father and learn about it. It was like a perfect plot twist. It's like the plot twist I think about when I think of them. But overall, I think Empire Strikes Back has the best themes of Star Wars. It reminds me of what it feels like to be in Star Wars, like a big galaxy far, far away. It is like so much to love for each scene, in my opinion. Is like some of my favorites. It is my favorite Star Wars storytelling of all time, and it's the
I
probably the
agree.
reason why I can relate to people like Luke Skywalker and all the other characters. I can just relate to it all and enjoy the franchise of Star Wars with The Empire Strikes Back. In my opinion,
Hmm.
I
it's
definitely
like a
agree with
10
you.
out of 10.
Yeah. I would. One last thing I wanted to. At one point, one last point I want to make. If you take a look at, if you take a look at Empire Strikes Back, and then you see how it leads into Return of the Jedi, to me, it's like Empire Strikes Back Part One. You get the cliffhanger, and then you get Part Two. So that's what I'm thinking of. Return of the Jedi was just basically the remainder, and it's Part Two. And then you add the additional scenes, at the end with the celebrations and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean that's where the story truly began. Like it begins with Star Wars, but then where it truly gets interesting and more involved is Empire Strikes Back. Definitely. So, yeah. What do you have to say, Eli, about it?
Oh yeah, so it's my turn. So yeah, Empire Strikes Back. Well, at that time, it was a sequel to Star Wars, and it was on. It was yet. I mean, they once again did it. Empire was unlike anything people had seen, where you know it seemed like maybe it didn't seem necessary to do a sequel to Star Wars, but George being very insistent, and well, like he had this in mind where he wanted to do a trilogy, and what was brought to Star Wars, and when George chose Irvin Kershner to direct, and what Kershner brought to the direction of Empire, and the locations that would be an Empire, new faces that would step in, most notably Yoda, Calrissian, Boba Fett, and the character driven, and how it drove further, and so much depth to the characters, and the interactions, relationships between them, and what's going on with each of them. Like, yeah, because we have Han, Leia, Chewie, and 3PO running from the Empire while Luke and R2 are in Dagobah. Luke learning to be. Luke learning more the ways of being of a Jedi and using the Force, this time by Yoda, and with amazing practical puppetry and Yoda actually being there on screen from of Frank Oz, and with Vader, and definitely Empire solidified Vader, definitely, and Vader definitely up to Empire becoming one of the most menacing on-screen villains of all time, and the debut of Boba Fett, one of the top best memorable bounty hunters in all of Star Wars, next to Cad Bane, and yeah, and even like just where the romance between Han and Leia would begin, and when they make their way to Cloud City, and there's a lot of drama, and there's funny moments here and there, and yeah, just where at a certain point in Empire, the Empire themselves, like they win in this one, they technically win, but in the end. I mean, the good guys, they technically win because, by escaping slash fleeing from the Empire up to when, yeah, they they flee Cloud City and the Empire being over Cloud City and such. And, well, of course, one of the iconic moments in Empire where we find out that Vader is Luke's father. Just, yeah, and the lightsaber duel between Vader and Luke, another great lightsaber duel. Just, you know, everything that was brought to Empire was excellent. It was no disappointment. And even though, because, yeah, no longer being a sequel. It's now referred to, of course, as Episode 5. Still, Empire is right up there alongside with A New Hope being one of the best Star Wars films and another best film in film history and such.
Yeah, it gets a lot more love lately. It has, which I agree, and it's well earned. It is. Empire has always been the quintessential because it has everything in it. It's got your drama, it's got your humor, it's got your horror, it's got your uh, romantic interludes, it's got everything that qualifies as a well-rounded, wholesome film. Yes, there are violent scenes, and yes, there will be people, back and forth, but you have to expect that. Um, you know, there has to be some kind of danger, of people dying and things like that, and that happens. But but to have a well-rounded film like this, especially, everybody was in anticipation, and they weren't disappointed. It was 3 years between both films, and they and people like myself, when I went to see it for the first time, obviously I went to see it opening day, when it came out, and I have to say I wasn't disappointed. I love those two films. I always thought they might do a third, but I wasn't sure until they did Return of the Jedi 3 years later. But there was always that possibility, and I have to say, the original trilogy, the three of them are the three best films that came out at a time when people needed them to. They needed to have films like that, and nowadays you hope for that, but you don't get it. You don't get the sequels the way they were supposed to be done, and you don't get a third one to turn out as well either. And we will probably, I would say, my own estimation, will probably never see a film franchise ever be able to put out three fantastic films, one right after the other, again. We'll never be able to see that. Even in the Marvel universe or the DC universe or any of those, or even Star Trek universe, you'll never get to see great sequels ever done like that again. Uh, and even if the first one is terrible, even people say, do we really want to see a sequel? Do we ever want to really see a third one of it? If they get two put out, you know, no. A lot of people are not into that anymore. But back then, it was sorely needed, and people needed it. So that's where I came from. That, yeah, definitely,
Yep.
So yes.
yeah,
So this like wraps up everything we've discussed so far.
yeah. I believe
Sure,
that
yeah.
all of your guys' choices are pretty much blended with mine because I was listening to your earlier choices. So yeah.
Yeah. So to me, just Star Wars means everything to me, and it still does. And I always will love Star Wars, and I'll continue to watch it, whether it continues or not. I'll always be down to see whatever Star Wars can do. So with this ranking, I conclude that have said my piece with all of the Star Wars movies. I think are my least favorite, all the way to my favorite. But overall, I don't think I could truly hate a Star Wars movie because at heart, this franchise means a lot to me. And with that, I think that concludes everything I said. So, yeah, anything you guys say? Others?
You go first, Eli. I'll let you know how I want to finish.
Now, what do we do now?
Just give your overall with all your choices.
Okay,
What
okay,
did you
yeah.
say?
Well,
You know,
I got you. Well, overall, because yeah, even though because not every single one of them are would be considered the best Star Wars films. Well, obviously for some of us, good majority of us, we of course we have our favorites, even if it's like say even if some of us like anything of the sequel trilogy and of course like the prequels or the standalone Star Wars films, from the two spin-offs to the Clone Wars movie, and of course, most prominently the original. But yeah, and for this this ranking, it's understandable, and yeah, because that how each of these films being specifically ranked, because you know, unfortunately, especially at that time when they were first received, but even still, like, of course, there are those that don't like them, but yeah, yeah, just overall, this doing this ranking was pretty good, and it's one of those, like, if we were to do if like say if we did like a ranking where we choose our very favorites, then yeah. But just overall, yeah, this was a lot of fun doing this kind of ranking, and yeah, just to everybody that has their own favorite Star Wars films, like, hey, it's your opinion alone, like, which is your favorite, and hey, that's that's what's good. So yeah, but overall,
Yeah,
this was a lot of fun doing this, and yeah, you know, always fun to doing anything like this, and especially around the month of Star Wars.
absolutely. As for me, I've always been, I've always said there are three franchises that I've always been respectful of. Uh, One of them has always been Star Trek. I'm a big, huge fan of the Star Trek universe. But number two to me would always be Star Wars because I grew up with Star Wars as a kid. I was into the merchandise. My brother had a few of the characters, which I wish he had left in boxes so we could sell them for good money. But he actually got into them and started playing with them and losing pieces. So that was, that was the end of that story. Uh, but I've, like I said, Star Trek and Star Wars franchises, especially Star Wars, has been one of my favorite franchises. The last one would obviously be the Indiana Jones franchise. I enjoy it so much. Uh, for the fact that Harrison Ford is so good. Uh, and of course, he came, eventually he moved into Indiana Jones after he played Han Solo. So I was very happy about that. Uh, the one last thing I got to say about the Star Wars franchise is over the years, I've seen it not just in the sequels, but when it's happened afterwards. The sequels were okay. They were not bad. They were not terrible. They didn't just, they weren't just, they weren't wrecked by Abrams. Okay, nothing really happened to them. They just didn't have a lot of story. They tried to add characters here and there, tried to expand it, but it wasn't. It wasn't succeeding, and I felt badly. Now Star Wars has put out all these different little, you know, series of things. Rebels is okay. I liked Rebels. I didn't mind that. Ahsoka was okay. Kenobi, for what I got little to see of that, was good. But like Skeleton Crew, others kind of not really keeping the franchise alive. I'd say right now Star Wars is on fumes. The franchise itself is barely breathing. It's there, but it's not surviving. It's not surviving and thriving, is what I'm trying to say. Now, the kick I get out of doing Star Wars fan films is there are actually good writers out there, unknown people for whatever reason, but they put their heart, their soul, and their money and their pocketbook where their mouth is, and they create these great fan films. And any of these fan films could
Yeah.
stand in as a filler for any of the nine movies, any of them, and even the two stories, Rogue One and Solo. They could stand, and the Clone Wars even too. They could stand in for any of them. They could be in place with those. Why can't Kathleen Kennedy, who I'm assuming is still in charge, why can't
Yeah,
she?
she's still in charge for now.
Yeah, for now. But why can't she just go ahead and take these fan film writers and creators and say, look, I would love for you to give us the ideas and the functionality and what's going to work for the next Star Wars possible trilogy. And
Come to think of it, George, when Lucas was still when George himself was still in charge, he didn't do that kind of thing either. what you're saying. Just
Right. Right.
hiring these fans and such.
No. At the
Yeah,
time, as we said, he came up. At the time, he came up with the best director that was left, I guess, and that was Abrams. So
yeah.
that was the man they had to come up with.
I guess this kind of counts where like the 501st, like when it came to like say the Mandalorian, like Favreau and Filoni, they actually brought in the 501st to play some extra stormtroopers. So
Yes.
and yeah, the 501st are fans and such, and there's this community, and the fact because their love and soul of Star Wars, and because like most notably the 501st, they were in the Roses Parade, and to think how far the 501st have become, like of course, to actually have them be a part of Star Wars itself, and as I said, like when it came to say Mandalorian, so
Yeah. I would say one last thing is that if Star Wars wants to succeed into a movie again, into movie classic epics, why not hire John Favreau and then have Filoni help him out as an associate producer and bring back what Star Wars was and what it's supposed to be, which is epic. It's supposed to appeal to everyone of all ages. That's what the original trilogy did. That was its strong point. That is what it still does to this day. Is it brings new people, young and old, into the universe itself. But when you see what it's done since the sequels, it saddens you. It really does. It's a departure. I think when I think most people agree when we reached Rise of Skywalker, that was the departure. That was it. That was where the death knell sounded, the bell sounded. That was it for Star Wars. Was that last film,
mm,
which is sad because for what we gathered from the past two with Revenge of the Sith and Return of the Jedi, what we gathered from those is that there is hope that you can create something new and something better. And I mean, it's just sad. There's no promising hope for what's going to come after Rise of Skywalker until we find the people that know how to write about movies and know about the Star Wars movies and how to embrace the books themselves, as background information, as research. Because the books themselves should be canon. They have a lot of valuable information there. And people are neglecting that. And I don't know why. I don't understand that. But anyway, right now Star Wars is it's on life support. It is. It does have a pulse, but it's just there. And the same thing for the Star Trek franchise. Both of these valued franchises that I really enjoy, both have a pulse, but they're just barely there. And I hope that someday they can bring back the epics, bring back the classics, because they're sorely needed right now. In this type of world that's so cynical, that's so uh, devastated by terrible movie making and all this other stuff. And we
yeah,
just got to get back to what we know. You know, some of us who are purists really would like to have something similar to what we saw in our childhoods. You know, growing up, that we want something like that. So, but I hope I didn't drone on too long, guys. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You should we just say our goodbyes since we've been going on for that long?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I guess Eli, you want to say anything?
Well, once again, with this ranking podcast and how it was done, and yeah, because how we ranked all the theatrical Star Wars films, and it was acceptable mentioning some other things, and technically, of course, in connections with Star Wars, but yeah, overall, because I think we did our very best with what we've had to say and where we placed each of these theatrical Star Wars films from like 10, 3, etc. Just yeah, and like I said, we all have our favorite Star Wars films, the theatrical ones, and even if like say some of us who like say the sequel trilogy or the prequels, whatever. But yeah, just for me, I had a good time. I had a good time with this, and yeah, again, a great way to doing this on the month of Star Wars, and yeah, be down to do one of these kind of stuff some other time. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I would
Anyway,
say if any,
so
and I
anybody else
was,
got last words?
yeah, I was just
Uh,
gonna say if anybody's got a chance to go see, like Scott did, if you get a chance to go see the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith, or yeah, Revenge of the Sith, definitely go see it because yes, it will be dark. It's the darkest of all the movies, as far as I know. But it does have a message, and it's a great film. And yeah, I would definitely go back and see it if I had a chance. So you know,
Hmm.
and go
And
ahead, Scott.
I meant to bring this up because I did mean to bring this up very quickly because I meant to earlier when Revenge of the Sith was brought up because I I did get to experience Revenge of the Sith when it first came out. I was only 4 years old when it came out, and 4-year old me just sitting there amazed and my eyes glued to the movie screen, and even like from my parents and my dad most notably explaining like what they remembered most memorably of when seeing Revenge of the Sith. I mean, I have vague memories of when seeing Revenge of the Sith, but my mom, she was concerned like if I was able to stay like in the theater like watching a 2-hour film. And when it was discovered, and even my dad noticed that, well, yeah, I mean both of them, but yeah, even my dad most notably telling me that I just sat there with my eyes glued, attached, watching the film all the way through. And yeah, and granted, because with its re-release, as much as yeah, I wouldn't, I mean, I guess I don't know. Even though I've seen it before, I don't know, because I would love to see it, but hey, I got to experience it the year when it came out.
Yeah,
So technically, yeah, I have already seen it before on the big screen, and even if there would be a chance for me to see it again on the big screen, that would be nice. But overall, yeah, I did get to experience it the year it came out, and yeah, I think that's of course good enough. So,
cool.
well,
Go ahead, Scott.
we wanted to say.
No, go ahead, Scott.
well,
You're up.
were you already finished, Mikey?
Oh yeah, I was already finished.
Okay,
Yeah, I
so all right, so
yeah
you're last, Anchorman. What are any last words?
yeah.
About to all, and keep enjoying Star Wars. If you don't, that's also okay. But we all came here to discuss Star Wars, and it was a great time. I'm glad we all had this discussion. Thank you to both for joining me on this discusussion.
Absolutely, anytime.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. As always, I'm blessed and honored to have be a part of Eggman and Eli's panel. Don't forget, I just did want to mention to everybody here. Don't forget, they do also help me out on my Star Trek and Star Wars fan films shows that we do every weekend. That we try to do it on Saturday afternoons at 1 p.m. Eastern. So please make sure you check us out because these guys love to do that with me, and I love talking about fan films, especially with our two franchises. So yeah, make sure you check us out together when we show up again on another panel and we talk about the fan films.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I guess I'll finish it off.
Yep.
Okay, so may the force be with you all. Thank you for
May,
watching, and
yep. May
subscribe
the
to my
yep.
friends.
May the force be with you all. Happy Star Wars month and happy belated Star Wars Day and all the above.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
May the force be with you always.
And also with you.
Farewell.
Farewell. We'll see you again for one of these.
Yep.
Bye.